I follow this website, and I mean, I follow the website or the social media page on Facebook of News of Bahrain. And they had this contest, like they said, give us an idea about what would solve the congestion in Bahrain, and the winner, I mean the best one that will decide who's the best will receive 2 tickets to the cinema, whatever. Now, I didn't really care about the cinema tickets. I just wanted to say my idea, and I wrote it. And then the other day, I got a notification, News of Bahrain, congratulations, tagged me, you are the winner. Like, so I went into that page, and I mean, it was like a button for WhatsApp. So it opened WhatsApp, and I said, okay, that's me. How do I get the tickets, right? Nothing happened.
It's a marketing scheme.
It was a scheme, not marketing. I mean, it was a literal scheme. And then the next day, News of Bahrain published a post saying somebody was phishing, basically pretending to be them, they blocked them, commenting on their like
comments,
using their logo, Now, then I looked back, I had a screenshot of the thing. Because I told a friend of mine, look, I won something. It's first time in my life I won something, a ticket or whatever. So I looked at the screenshot and I realized that next to the fake News of Bahrain, there was the follow button. But I followed them. So I should have realized this is not the same page.
Yeah,
right?
shit.
Yeah. But anyways, I didn't give any details, or they only have my phone number, so fine. What can they do with it?
Because you can sell phone numbers and emails for good money. Like that
Let
kind
them
of
sell it.
data scrapping and stuff like that. Ooh, it's good business. Like on LinkedIn, you can, like I use a bot called, this was for my old job. We used to use a bot called Ghost, Phantom Buster or Phantom Ghost, something like that.
Okay.
And you would be able to scrape on LinkedIn and on Facebook and on Instagram and stuff like that, people's email addresses and phone numbers. And then you can use it then to sell to marketers and sales agents.
Okay.
And then they'd have then able to contact whatever the mark is in order to get the sell.
Yeah, but it only makes sense if you know some demographics about the person.
Of course.
What are they interested in? So what? I'm interested in News of Bahrain. Okay, fine. I'm interested in movie tickets. Anyways, maybe the next step, if they weren't blocked, is to reach out to me. Then I blocked them on WhatsApp, so I don't know. Maybe they tried to reach out to me and
sell you tickets, or we need your bank information.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I guess those people simply try. I mean, even if 100 fails and 1 succeeds, they can get a lot of money from that scam.
Absolutely. I mean, what is it? Like, I think 40% of emails are scam emails.
I get
something ridiculous like that.
A huge amount of phishing emails.
See?
Pretending to be my...
lost cousin.
No. Pretending to be a service provider, like my cloud service. Okay, the storage. You're out of storage. Actually, that was true. I was out of storage. But your SharePoint password changed. What? So I asked the company, the company that hosts my SharePoint, or the reseller. Anyways, I asked them, is it true? What? No, it's a phishing email. They checked. Anyways.
I'm telling you, it's good money. There's that kind of phishing stuff. It really works. You know what people do? There's a website I think called J2G.com. You can buy like games, like video games for PC, very very cheap, like under $1.
Okay.
Like full published games. So the way it works is that credit card scammers take people's credit cards and then sell it on the dark web. People then purchase those credit card numbers, then use it to buy either games or in-game currency on accounts, and then resells that game, or resells the credits in that game into G2G for 1/10 or 1/100th of what the official price is through the mechanism, which is a genius enterprise if you think about it, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess I take your
Not
word for
morally
it.
right, sure,
Yes.
but from a perspective of just pure business, I remember reading into an article that explained how that functions, and then it's fascinating because from the game's perspective, the game provider, it doesn't hurt their balance sheet, so they have very little initiative and drive to
But they,
to cut that out.
but you're saying that they provide the basically stolen credit cards?
No. So
Wait a
so let's say there's an operation that is phishing scam that gets like thousands of people's credit cards, right?
Right.
They sell that list then on the dark web, and then people purchase that list. They use those credit card numbers to buy video games.
So they have to play the game,
Sure.
and then they simply register as a, I don't know, maybe a new user or the same user with a different credit card. They buy credits.
Exactly.
So
They buy credits on the stolen credit
Yeah,
card,
yeah.
and then sell that account that they've made
the
on
whole account.
the whole account on G2G with the username and password, what they created, right?
So the G2G, why do they allow for people to buy accounts?
G2G is a sales platform.
Oh.
Can you type it in? G2G? I think that's what the platform is
Oh.
called.
I don't know. Have it been there?
I mean, they don't mean to run a fraudulent operation. I can guarantee that. It's just
just
something that happens.
Allow it, but it doesn't. I mean, okay,
Games?
games with an M.
There you go.
Here, yeah.
The leading digital marketplace platform. You can open it. It's fine.
So you can buy and sell everything that is digital.
When it comes to games, yeah, like currencies, video games.
Okay, so
just
that's this whole thing for me. It's like alien. I mean, I'm not.
just an interesting conversation.
No. I wouldn't understand why people would spend money on those things, but I guess people.
There's a lot of money. In
Yes, I realized it lately because we actually we realized it's a huge thing, especially in Saudi, by the way.
Yeah.
But I mean, I never spent a shekel on a video game.
No, I agree. Akash has a friend, I think, who spent like 600 BD on 1,000 BD on PUBG, a video game.
What is PUBG? What?
A video game.
Oh, what do you mean? To buy the game? To
No,
have the game?
to buy like currency within the game.
Oh, okay.
It's a huge market. There's a lot of money that gets pumped through them.
Yes. I mean, yeah.
It's unbelievable. They're billion-dollar industries.
And the guy, what's his name? Zuckerberg, right?
Mark Zuckerberg
Yeah.
from Facebook.
I think his idea with the metaverse is actually part of the realization that gaming is. He'd like to tap into that experience, like you're in a right to do the
Virtual
gaming with
reality, yeah.
for every day, browsing, whatever.
That's the future.
I'm not so sure. I mean, maybe it will be, but then I think there will be like a counter reaction to that. Like eventually, like, because for example, today you see parents that deal with the fact that their children are constantly watching those
Devices, yeah.
yeah. And they say, at least when we were young, we used to run in the field, in the streets. We used to, do real life experiences and not just,
Sit on the couch and watch
Yeah.
TV all day. I agree.
And I think that people will eventually figure out why am I looking at this thing virtually when I can go have a walk and watch the sunset or whatever. Some of them will, but
I guarantee you, the productivity world, there's going to be a huge shift in that industry. Can you type in, I think Facebook released, or Meta, sorry, that's their new company now. Meta released a new VR set. Just type in Meta, new VR. So the whole idea, Mayor, go back, sorry. It's not that one. It's that one there. Meta Quest Pro. That's the one I think that they're releasing. Anyway, so the idea behind it is that you'll have a virtual desktop. And so for people who are on trains, flights, any person who's maybe handling like private information, on a device, that kind of stops anyone from looking, right?
Right.
And so that's going to be a huge shift, especially coffee shops, any kind of place where you might be working with sensitive information, be it with a client or whatever else.
But I didn't put any of the. I did put it once in Dubai for 10 seconds. It seems to me that it's heavy. It's not comfortable. What? I'll be on a train for, I don't know, 3 hours wearing this thing. It's going to hurt my neck. No? Unless I just, I don't know. I mean, it sounds to me like it's not.
It's not practical.
Google had the idea with the glasses.
Sure.
That seemed reasonable because it's glasses. Okay. It's not something huge, bulky thing that actually disconnects you from the world. The glasses were supposed to have like a small screen that you can, I guess, that you look a bit down and you see what you want to see, and then you look up, you see the world, right? So it's interchangeable.
Well, you say that right now, but look at, can you type in new AR glasses? There's a new one that just came out that has like a cable coming from here that you can plug into your phone. Oh. And it's as light as mine or your glasses.
Okay.
And see, can you go on images? That's the Google Glass one.
Just crapped.
Yeah, that one right there, the first link. Yeah, that's the one that just came out.
Okay, that looks
from
less
Qualcomm?
bulky. I would be able to wear those, yes, I guess. I mean,
especially if you connect it to your computer for
God bless.
Yeah, God bless. But yeah,
yeah,
that's the future right there.
They're kind of cool looking, but yeah.
It's definitely still heavier than our glasses, naturally.
Yeah.
But the practicality of it, I think, just outweighs it. See,
well,
that's what people are.
So basically, what? Okay, he doesn't have anything on the wall. He just imagines he has like a big split screen on the wall.
No, that's how it looks like.
For him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For him, he puts it on, and then he can have multiple monitors, which is also nice because you're not putting so much strain on your neck.
You don't?
Well, no, because your posture is more like this rather than when you're on a computer. You're constantly leaning forward. No.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't work for the company.
No, I mean,
I feel like I'm doing a sales pitch.
Things will work for different people, but I'm just thinking when you say something is the future, so it's not a niche product.
No.
You're saying it will be like an iPhone.
I think so.
For everyone.
Absolutely.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean,
Apple is working on some right now.
Oh, yeah, I heard something.
Yeah.
Maybe they will release it
next year.
Something I heard. Yeah. Well, let's see. Maybe I buy a lot of Apple stuff, so
everyone does, doesn't they?
Yeah. Well, no, there are those who are Samsung people. Don't understand why, but still.
Are you buying any stock in Apple?
No. Well, maybe through my, pension funds, yes, but not
privately. No.
No.
Because I have the iPhone that's two generations ago. And I find it very hard for me to convince myself to go and spend, I don't know what it is, like 600, 400, whatever the BD is.
Yeah.
If I could spend that on Apple stock. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
I find that like a very hard purchasing decision to make. To be like, I could spend the 400 BD to buy a phone, or I could just buy stocks in the company.
Yeah, basically you could, yeah. And then
you get some returns.
And ask for them to... Maybe not.
Lower the price?
Yeah, maybe.
I would vote to increase the price.
That's true. That's a problem when you're... I was just telling my friend that she bought just a few euros worth of crypto something, currency. One of those were pegged to the dollar or something, not Bitcoin. But anyways, but still she thinks of it as a no, so basically she didn't buy those that are pegged. Otherwise, no, she said the original 50 became 200, then it became 160 euro.
Sure.
So I told her, listen, it means that now you're never going to use it as a currency because you always think it can be worth more. Why would I buy a pizza with it or whatever if I can wait and it'll be worth more? Or it was worth more, I'll wait till it rebounces, right? So when you look at something as an investment, like a stock, then it's not a currency anymore. Now you're waiting for it either to make you a profit or, anyways.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the problem with any kind of digital currency or cryptocurrency that has high volatility, right? If it's not pegged to something, then you're going to deal with volatility issues, and then you're going to have people who are going to sit on that stock or asset or coin base till the end of their life and hoping that, they can retire on. I had a guy on the show, he was telling me he bought a few Bitcoins. He didn't want to say how many, but he said in the beginning,
wow.
He said he purchased the coin per coin by around, I think it was like $100, something like that.
Oh wow, that's really early.
And
so he's a millionaire.
He owns more than I think 100 coins.
Wow.
But he didn't want to say the exact specific amount, obviously. However, he was telling me this is my retirement fund, the coins, and I was like,
so no.
Yeah.
So if he didn't cash that in, he'll never cash it in because he always wanted to return to the glory days, right? It will never return. I don't think it will return. And one day, and this is something that I was telling my friends and some of my employees that took money and put in Bitcoin, one day it will be outlawed. And it will be illegal. And then what you're going to do? It's going to
crash.
The value is going to be zero. And that's it. You lost everything.
I think I'll take it a step further because I talked to some people on the show as well. Where they cut the segment out, but I'm not going to say names. They operated a pump and dump scheme.
Something to do with stocks?
No, pump and dump scheme in crypto.
Okay.
So what they would do is you would buy into their messaging group, and they would tell you when to buy and when to sell.
Right.
So they would manipulate the
okay.
coin value based on that.
Yeah.
And I sat with him and he was telling me this, and I said, "Listen, that's fraud. What you're committing is fraud."
Yeah.
and he didn't really understand the concept of it. And I said, "Listen, sooner or later, the U.S. is going to step in, and they're going to take the biggest players who committed these pump and dump schemes, like they did with junk bonds, and they're going to slap them so hard your head is going to turn, your head is going to twist."
Yeah.
It's just a question of when.
I just saw a webinar with a professor from Berkeley in California, and it was about blockchain. Now, Bitcoin, for example, is just a particular use of blockchain technology. So, this professor thinks there's a future for blockchain, but just not in currency. And regarding Bitcoin, he said something like, it's like it was engineered for criminal activity. So now I'm thinking, you mentioned the dark web. You mentioned, you didn't mention, but I was thinking human trafficking, drugs, mafia, all of those things, money laundering, whatever, terrorism, you can finance with Bitcoin, right?
Sure.
So one day, something will be, there will be, I don't want to give ideas, but there will be a 9/11, a new 9/11, and they will find out, there will be an investigation. How did they finance this? How did they move the money? Oh, okay, it was Bitcoin. And then they'll shut it down.
No, I don't disagree. They'll shut down the market space of being able to purchase and sell it, but you're always going to create like it's like banning drugs. You're still going to create a black market.
Yeah, but you're going to tell to people to
the upstanding citizens.
Law-abiding citizens.
I agree.
This is criminal. You want to be a criminal? Fine, do it.
Yeah.
But then he will treat you as a criminal.
Absolutely, that I agree with 100%. And I think it's a question of when, and I think it's already being used for criminal activities. It's interesting because I've had on the show a girl who works for the UK anti-money laundering.
Oh yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
Part
Raluca.
of it.
Yeah. Romanian lady.
Yes.
She doesn't work directly for the government. She works for a consultancy company that gets hired by organizations, banks, and stuff like that. And she was telling me, I'm not sure if it was in the episode or cut, that the UK government doesn't care for money laundering in the sense of drugs or human trafficking, terrorism a little bit, sure. But what they really, really care about is bad actors. They're really worried of politicians getting
I was thinking
money.
in the West End.
No.
Because that might
Those
ruin-
bad actors are fine. it's the politician ones they're worried about.
Okay. So that they would get like campaign funds through this? Or?
Campaign funds, that they might make decisions that are
Right, bribes, yes.
money motivated. That's what they're more worried about, right? And there's a lot of
makes sense because the Kremlin, I don't know.
You remember what Facebook? Remember with the they had it. What was the company called, Danny? Do you remember?
Which one is it?
It was Facebook was in trouble from a company in the UK that was not selling information.
It's Cambridge Analytica.
Cambridge Analytica. Yeah.
Analytica, whatever, yes. I don't remember the exact details, but I remember there was a thing with that.
They basically shoehorned fake information to rile up the crowd
Okay.
and vote then for bread exit. That's the narrative
Oh,
that is being pushed, right?
okay.
They weaponized information, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of talk that the Russians are doing it each time there's elections in the US, right? And probably elsewhere. We also now have elections, and I just heard that they are afraid of Russian bots and whatever.
Influencing it.
Interventions.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, so basically, I'm just thinking this technology. I think technology should take civilization forward,
Not backwards.
Backwards.
Yeah, I
Right?
agree with you.
So we had progress with banks, anti-money laundering laws and anti-terrorism laws and regulations and whatever. Now we scrap it all up and go and use something that bypasses everything. No, I mean, yes. I don't know how they allowed it to. And add on top of that, the environmental
Implications
of this thing. So, are we fighting climate change or not? What are we doing here? We're doing those UN
guidelines, yeah.
not just the guidelines, those meetings like the one in Sharm el-Sheikh next month, right? The COP 27, I think. So we're doing those things where we talk about climate change, and then we allow something that has the energy demands of a country like Argentina, just that is unnecessary. It's uncalled for.
I agree with you, but you're stuck in a terrible situation. I mean, the U.S. Under Trump obviously opened up coal and got rid of a lot of the environmental protection bylaws, and that really helped fund the economy, right? And now Biden obviously put a hold to a lot of that.
He did? I don't know. Okay,
Yeah. Especially when it comes to like coal and stuff like that, and suddenly energy prices have shot up. I mean, the U.S. used to be a net exporter of oil, right?
Yeah.
And now they're stuck at petrol being almost $5 a gallon. Is it $5 a gallon? Can you check that up for me? I don't want to
Depends where.
speak.
In the U.S., yeah.
Yeah.
Here, no.
No, here it's not such an issue. No. What do you think? What do you think the future is in the larger sense of this region? Do you think the Middle East is going to be the next Europe, in the sense of like
MBS
innovation?
says?
Yeah, like MBS says.
At least parts of the Middle East.
You don't?
I mean, yeah, parts is good. Good, large parts. Some are maybe follow up later. The rest. But I hope. Let's say first of all, I hope. I see there is a potential. But there are forces that want to drag this region to the other
extreme. I agree.
Yeah.
No, I mean the way I see the global situation happening from a big picture perspective is that there isn't an opportunity anymore for small nations to survive, right? I think if you're looking at it from a macro perspective,
You mean survive militarily, economically, or
economically, I mean, in any kind of factor, you can't have a strong economy without having a good military. That goes hand in hand.
Yeah, you do. You
Yeah.
have to, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We both agree on this. But I mean, look at it. You've got China, you've got Russia, you've got US, and you've got Europe, right? And out of the, for the only way for the Middle East and Asia really to survive is to stick together. Otherwise,
The Middle East with aid. Okay, that's a question. For example, because if you look at the, let's say,
India and Pakistan.
What?
India and Pakistan, for example. Both are proxy nations at the moment to US and China.
Right. Yes.
Sorry, if it's too political, I can pull back.
It's fine. No, it's fine. I'm into political stuff. I mean, I had a master's degree in security and diplomacy studies, so I'm into that geopolitical things. But no, I'm looking at the Middle East. Like, I mean, there are those countries. Let's say that we in Israel we call them the, or maybe some other people call them the Sunni moderate states. Okay, meaning it's basically it's Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the other Gulf countries, excluding Qatar, and and Jordan, basically. So that's the moderates. Now Jordan has historical connections with the UK, right? And Saudi with the US, and Egypt switched to the US from Soviet Union to the US in the 70s.
1970s, yeah.
So basically that's the and okay, although Israel is not a Sunni country, we do have 20% almost Sunni Muslims as citizens. Anyways, and Israel is like on that let's say field, okay, of those countries. All of them are challenged by Iran, and so the other side is led by, so it's like not all Shia, but it's like influenced by Iran, which has its tentacles reaching Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iraq, right? And so basically, who will win? So they have those proxy wars. Syria was a proxy war, right?
Yemen is a proxy war.
Right.
It is what it is.
And we don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, just 2 years ago there was that. Was it drones or was it cruise missiles? There was an attack on a Saudi Aramco production site.
Yeah, not even 2 years ago. Iran tried to send missiles during the Formula One event that happened in Saudi.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
in Jeddah.
In Jeddah, yeah,
Yes.
just recently. That's
Yeah. So it's still ongoing. We have a problem because all of us, like, kind of rely on at least militarily, on the U.S. So we have a problem because this administration is. I would want to say weak, but I'm not even sure if it's weak. Simply, nobody understands what they want.
Did you see when Biden just recently made a comment saying they're flirting with releasing restrictions on Iran?
I didn't hear that, but
yeah, that was as a because Saudi Arabia said that they're going to cut 2 million barrels on the OPEC a day,
Right.
and
Less.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then U.S. replied by saying we're looking at our investment options exterior, including Iran's restrictions. It's so crazy at the moment. What's going on?
The most visual thing that I remember him going to meet MBS in Saudi with the palm. How do you call it?
Palm tree.
The palm thing.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
bump. The palm bump. Like, because he said he wouldn't shake his hand, right? So he had to do a palm bump. Now, but then he said, no, I'm not meeting him. I'm just going to be at the G20. I'm not going to meet him. Is it your ally or not? Decide. I mean, now.
Now Saudi wants to join the BRIC nation.
which is again flirting with Russia.
Absolutely.
So basically, I'm just saying that I think that because the Middle East is like torn between at least one superpower, which is the US, and then not exactly superpower, but a bunch of those competing superpowers. Maybe Russia isn't exactly it's only superpower in terms of nuclear weapons. That's it. You see that they can't even
Economically, it's a disaster.
yes, and they can't even. What is the Ukraine?
But
Ukraine could have been crushed by Norway.
Sure,
okay?
sure.
I mean, and they can't crush them because there's no motivation in the Russian army to do it. They simply don't want to fight, and they're right.
But who is is it Kashly something, the guy with the huge birthmark? Gorbachev.
Yes.
Because under the agreement from closing the Cold War under Gorbachev, I think it was Gorbachev, but correct me if I'm wrong,
I know
was
what you're
that
gonna say.
that Ukraine was supposed to be NATO free.
I heard.
Sure, it
that
might be wrong.
This claimed agreement that they reached with. I don't think it's
Gorbachev.
I think it's something to do with Yeltsin and Clinton, but doesn't matter really. That this is just a claim that the Russians made. But you know what? There's so much disinformation on things that I'm not sure. I don't
I know. Nobody remembers
I
either.
don't know. But and you know what? And I do give a little bit of room for doubt regarding because I look at the okay, this conflict that started basically in 2014 when they took Crimea. There was a claim, and there is a claim that the West looked at it. Okay, they took Crimea, fine, they did some sanctions, and everybody went back to
Nobody cared. Yeah.
Yeah, because they could say, okay, Crimea was originally Russian. They gave it as a gift. They literally gave it as a gift to Ukraine. Now they took it. Fine. But then there was those years where they had those skirmishes. And if you recall, there was this, is it Air Malaysia? Or Malaysia?
Yes,
Air?
that disappeared.
No, there was the one that disappeared. That was the one over the...
Baltic Sea?
No. There was the one that disappeared that was next to Malaysia, Indian Ocean. That they found the wreckage after 2 years somewhere, small piece of the wing or something. So they know it crashed. They didn't find the whole thing. But anyways, so there was this one. And after a few months, there was another crash, but it wasn't a crash. It was a missile that they flew over from somewhere in Europe. They flew to a conference, and not all of them, but there was a group on that plane flying to an AIDS conference with top world leading AIDS researchers, whatever, a group. I think maybe 6 people.
Oh wow!
Top of the
creme.
All killed. So what brought that plane down? So the investigation concluded it was one of those militias, the Russian or who knows, some of those militias in the eastern parts of the Ukraine. So there was a conflict there for 8 years, simmering. Because we didn't pay attention to it, I don't know who is exactly the one that actually was the culprit that brought things to a boil, to a point where Putin had to. Now, could be that Putin is the new Hitler. I don't know. Maybe. It could be that the Ukrainians also had a role in this. Anyways, the thing is that Putin maybe he had I think he thought they would win in 2 or 3 days. They will march victoriously into Kiev, but he had a bad judgment, I guess. Or he relied on some, unrealistic expectations that they will be welcomed as, liberators.
Yeah.
And now he's trapped. he can't because of his illusions of grandeur. We need to bring Russia to its past glory, whatever. Now he is like trapped in this thing. He can't back away, because of his pride or whatever. Or he thinks if he backs away now, how would Russia would be, right? Because it's in decline. Anyways, so we're stuck in this thing. So regardless of who is originally to blame.
I'm just
This
sign
is
for cigarettes and ashtray.
Oh yes, good.
So it lets me think a little while we talk.
We're stuck in this thing, and it can. It doesn't matter who is to blame for it starting. Now we can all suffer from this thing. We already suffer from this thing.
Thank you, sir.
And who knows what will,
Thank you, sir. No, I hear. I do you not think this has part to do with Europe and the U.S. punishing Russia for election meddling for the last couple of years? I think there is a weight to that thought because Russia has been funding a lot of bots in order to do information warfare and destabilization.
But what is the punishment? Because
funding Ukraine, freedom fighters, I think is how they want to refer to themselves as.
Before the conflict erupted, before the war?
Before the war fully erupted, right? I mean, the U.S. is supplying Ukraine with weapons.
But I'm not sure what happened before the invasion.
Of course, yeah. But I think they did do some training and on-site training. And now, by the way, that things are even going more crazier, U.S. has just built two embassies in Africa to contest China and Russia.
What do you mean build embassies? Like
build U.S. embassies.
Okay. In countries that didn't have?
That have very, very powerful Chinese influences. Because the Chinese went, of course, to Africa and they've bought up a lot of the mines and the ports.
I know. Yeah.
Have you been to some of the areas there?
No. I mean,
you've read.
I've heard. Yes,
yeah.
Yes. I think even in one of your
episodes I talked about it. Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. But I went to Namibia and I was shocked because the apartheid between the two is crazy. Yeah. Like you go from like areas where the road isn't a road, and then you go to a mine where you're like, this is Europe, this is America.
Because the mine has to function.
Absolutely. Or if you go to the port,
the road doesn't matter.
Yeah. And all the people employed there are Chinese. And what I've heard from some of the people who are there, the Chinese export their not like A-list criminals, B, C-list criminals,
right.
Bring them there to work in the mines, and then burn their passports. So it's either you work there or nowhere.
I mean, the Chinese, but the Chinese, I have less
fear.
No, I mean, okay. I think the Chinese deserve to be a superpower.
Sure. They
are the biggest, even if you just look at the I think they're called the Huns group, ethnic group, that, right? China is also multi-ethnical, but let's say the biggest one is the Chinese, okay? Not the Tibetans, okay? So basically there are over 1 billion people. They contributed, I mean, the origin historically, right? They contributed to a lot of the advances in technology, like gunpowder, a lot of stuff.
Porcelain,
paper, maybe? I don't know. Pasta? No. Yeah, maybe pasta as well.
Yeah, as well.
Things, okay? They created things. And they were a huge empire. Different stages, and now they're returning to the world stage. They were in decline, now they're returning. So but I mean, Russia, I mean, other than just laying claim to vast areas of nothing, of tundra, what did they, I mean, and creating enormous hydrogen bombs. What did they find?
Technology-wise, they haven't contributed a lot, but they are very resource-rich as a geographical perspective.
Yes, true.
Rare metals, jewelry, or diamond mines.
Yeah,
and
because
stuff
they somehow expanded from basically
all the
Kiev and Poland and that area.
Yeah.
And they were around that area, they expanded to maybe 6 or 7 time zones to the east till Alaska.
Under the USSR, it was almost the entire globe. If you think about it, only parts that weren't was the US and Japan. Really, the rest was almost, including half of Germany, was under the USSR at one point. Right? It was crazy.
Yeah, and no, I'm just saying that they were born out of like the Western. Civilization, not unlike China, which was a completely different civilization. They're part of the Western, but then they're now in a position where I don't know why they have to differentiate themselves. Why can't you be pro-European? I mean, nobody's threatening you. Nobody's thinking of invading Russia. Nobody's like, where is your security? The only security threat that they have is maybe those little republics in the Caucasus.
I think what China is really worried about is an internal dispute inside, right? Because China politically, when you look at it, there is almost no insight, right? You don't know who's in control of the party. You don't even know really the names of anyone.
You saw what happened in the congressional meeting?
Where they just said to the former president, "Hey, it's time for you to leave."
Yeah.
It is. I mean, China hates when you say this, but it's almost run still by an emperor, right?
And by the way, they are extremely. The Communist Party is one of the cruelest organization ever. They literally did genocide to the Chinese people in various stages. The Cultural Revolution, and they.
They are still
doing things.
There are still camps. There are still camps.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy because I remember one of the Israeli ambassadors came out and said when after Second World War we swore we would never see another camp on the world, and yet here we are.
And they are, yes.
It's crazy.
Basically, it's we have this debate in Israel now. Should we be neutral? What should we do with Ukraine? Now, it's very complex in terms of, geopolitics. But the claim is that we said never again. Now, it's not exactly the same. Okay, there's no death camps now in the Ukraine, but like there's a country under attack. They are obviously the victim. There's an aggressor. And we should take a stand. And now, basically, other than the thing that I mentioned before, that I'm not sure that all sides are, like there's no 100% victim and 100% aggressor. Maybe there's a little bit of, guilt attached to both in letting this simmer. But anyways. Countries like Israel today, and like other countries before World War II or during World War II, they have interests, and they take into account not just their moral, their feelings, towards other people, they also think about their interests, and interests can be very complex. So, for example, we have a situation now that in Syria. There's a Russian presence because they came there to help Assad, right? So they're there. And we have reached an agreement with them that they don't fire at our aircrafts, we don't target them, or whatever. We had a kind of an agreement. Now, if we break all, rules with them, they can target our airplanes,
Sure.
So, and let's face it. Now, there's another call to supply Ukraine with Iron Dome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What happens if we give them a battery of Iron Dome and the Russians capture it? They give it to the Iranians because they're working with them now, right? So, yeah, we want to help them, but if it means to risk our citizens' lives or our future, so it's more complex than just take a.
I mean, we can look at it from even a bigger perspective. Let's not forget the biggest warmongers anywhere. There's a reason why the U.S. decided to leave all that equipment in Afghanistan and just got out, right?
I don't understand why they left it. They should have burned it.
They know in their it's not called war doctorate. It's called conflict. Modalities of conflict or whatever it's called, their paper of what is supposed to happen, what any equipment that is left on site on hostile or nation or neutral is meant to be destroyed.
Right.
They're meant to shoot missiles at that equipment and so that nobody can get anything. Now you can go there right now and you can buy a military truck for $10,000.
That obviously costs.
That costs $100,000 to make. But they're just.
It's like they left in Iraq. They left. I think it was Humvees or something with the keys in the ignition.
Yeah.
For ISIS to take.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. But there's a reason why they do these kind of things, right? I mean, they're playing a three-dimensional chess.
I'm not sure they're that clever.
You don't think so? You don't think
No.
that the DoD made sure that these things would?
I think you give them too much credit for being chess players. No, I just think they.
Because who are these weapons going to? They're going to go to China. They're going to go to Russia, right? And they're going to go to the rest of the region, right?
Yeah. But why would they want that?
Well,
They
to
wouldn't want
destabilize
that.
the rest of the region, right? I mean,
Unless they have planted in them, I don't know, a listening device or something.
well documented that the CIA imported cocaine into the U.S. to fund black op operations. In fact, it was. Can you look it up, Danny? It was President, not Nixon. It was Reagan. Who?
You're talking about the Iran-Contras?
No.
They funded the wars in South America by cocaine trading.
Yeah, because the Senate said they didn't want to support the freedom fighters. I think that's what Reagan called them. And so in order to go around the Senate, which, I mean, he committed treason to go around the Senate was by fueling the drug war. The CIA contact crack. It's not a controversy. It's the truth.
Cocaine controversy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Contract crack, cocaine controversy, review of this. Okay, that's.
It's super interesting.
yeah.
I'm telling you, they play chess like you won't believe. I mean,
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm
not.
Maybe I'm just not that of a chess player to think that. Yeah.
There are smarter people than the two of us, I can guarantee you.
I guess so. I mean, they're probably but there were so many there are so many clumsy things that the Americans did along the years that you think, how can it be a super sophisticated system if they did those clumsy things? Like, for example, I know it's not just those you mentioned DoD, right? So it's not just this; it's also the political level. But let's say Obama during the Arab Spring with Egypt, right? Turning like a cold shoulder to Mubarak because we have to support democracy, right? But that's your ally. What is the message that you're giving now to all the other allies? That you're going to turn a cold shoulder to them as well?
You're gonna leave them out in the rain.
Yeah. I mean, they did so many clumsy things that it's hard for me to believe that they also have those, very, very, they keep planning a few steps ahead or something. It seems like, I don't know.
Look at the contracts that they give to Israel, right? I mean, they put in the contract itself that money that is.
No, definitely, we need to buy from them.
Exactly, right?
No, for sure. And they, by the way, it's not just in military. In El Al cannot buy Airbus.
There we go.
We need to only buy Boeing.
Boeing, because it's an American company.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, definitely. They say, listen, you want our
Funding,
so buy our weapons and
purchase from our economy. Yeah. I mean,
I can understand that basically.
Sure, but that puts you on a pedestal as almost being like a proxy nation, right? That's the scary part of it.
Well, we are. Well, if you check if you look at, are we obedient to them? No, we're not.
Sure,
they're furious with us on a lot of levels.
Sure,
right? But are we like? Let's say we will never play in China's game.
Do you not remember? There was one of the companies was selling. It was an Israeli-based company, and it had put a lot of tension between the U.S. and Israel relationship, and they were selling U.S. military DoD plans for aircrafts that were still in development.
I think there was something to do with
aircrafts and missiles, and they were selling it to potentially a Chinese bidder.
Okay,
and that put the whole world shook.
There was something. Maybe there are a few instances regarding China, but I remember in the 90s, I think it was when there was Prime Minister Rabin was in charge. I think there was something then that we wanted to sell something that's like an aircraft or something that was based on American technology, and they said, no, you can't. And even though we signed the thing, we had to
pull back the agreement and pay the punishment fee.
Or something. But they don't want us, and I think it's fair. I mean, they help us a lot. We should be loyal to them in a sense.
Sure, I mean, Israel most of the tech innovation comes from high-end industries, right? I mean, when it comes to both programming and research and development, you guys are far in advance, right? And I think that's great. It's good that you guys
after the US, I think.
Yeah. Well, a lot of contracts gets through it from there, so it's fantastic, right? And this is great for an industry.
It started because of the military, by the way.
Yeah.
Because and even today. Most of the talents that are becoming founders of startups in Israel have had experience in the intelligence corps in the army. There's the unit, maybe you heard the name, 8200. So they basically it has a few in this unit. They also have. Some of the people who go to this unit are trained in Arabic, so that they can read Arabic, understand Arabic, because a lot of the information we gather is in Arabic,
of course.
Basically. And then there is the technical part. Okay, you got mass amounts of information. What are you going to do with it, or how you collect it? Some technologies are designed to collect information, some to analyze it, some to distribute, So basically, this unit had to build its own software or different softwares or hardware. So basically, it's like a incubator for tech people in different. So basically, this thing started with the army, and they keep reducing each year, because people go to the army for 3 years. Maybe they sign if the army finances their education, they'll stay for 5 years, 6 years, depend. But then they're off into the civilian life. But those people have, let's say, 6 years experience in basically the equivalent of a very intense technological environment. So other than the fact that they don't need to worry about funding, because in the private sector you need to raise money as well, right?
Sure.
But there you get the money, you get everything, but just do it. Just deliver it.
And that's the nice thing about public sector, right? It's never a question about funding. It's about a question of delivery.
Yeah. So but they get the experience, and then
absolutely.
So they're they're becoming the founders for their own startups in civilian life later.
Well, I totally agree with
Yeah.
you. I mean, the black boxes that are designed to break open iPhones for the U.S. Department
Yes.
of Security, police, everything else. These technology companies all come from Israel. I mean, that's what's
NSO, yeah.
specialized in, and that's great. I mean, my thesis was on military spending and innovation.
Okay, wow.
And it shows chronologically that the more money is spent on the military, the more innovation you find, because the military is willing to place bets that the private sector simply isn't. You know, lithium-ion batteries, GPS, touchscreen technology.
Oh, that's all from the military.
All
Good.
comes from the military. Every product that you think that we think as people that comes from Apple, none of it. They're all patented from the U.S. military, and the U.S. military actually makes bids on which companies buy
We were
the bids.
discussing the virtual reality, right?
Yes,
Those helmets for the pilots, right?
absolutely,
With
absolutely,
all of the data that they need to see,
absolutely.
right? So
Eye tracking
and the
technology
simulators.
came from came from it. Even video games for 3D rendering for because that was used for military exercises and stuff like that comes all from the DoD. The DoD is somewhere between 20 to 30 years more advanced than the technology that we use today. It's an incredible place. It's an
Okay.
incredible amount of technology that flows out of it.
And don't forget, I'm not sure if it's under DoD, NASA, but the most important invention that came from the whole space, how do you call it?
The space war.
No,
It's
no,
not
no,
the space race.
Yeah, no, I mean, how do you call the space program?
Space
program. The civilian one. Let's not go to the
Military one, yeah.
Star Wars thing. Velcro.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
What
microwave.
do we do without? Okay, microwave.
Yeah.
And that ice cream that you can, the little pellets of ice cream. Never mind. So yeah.
Dry ice.
Yes, things like But there is this story. If we were talking about the Russians, it's probably an urban legend, but maybe it's true. I don't know. That the Americans spent I don't know how many millions on a pen that can write in space, right? That they can even sell it to you, and if you go to, to Cape Canaveral, they sell this astronaut pen.
Pen. You can write it upside down.
Yeah.
And
But
Russia
the
brought a
Russians
pencil.
brought a pencil. Right? So when you have limitless resources, you can go and develop an astronaut pen. But in the private sector, you would say, why do we need to spend that money on a pen? Just use, right?
The first cosmonaut as an astronaut in the U.S., but the first the first one in space was a cosmonaut, and
Gagarin, Yuri Gagarin.
Russia has been denying it from day one, but there's audio recordings of the pilot crashing and crying out for help that survived. Crazy, right?
What do you mean crashing?
Can you type it in? Cosmonaut audio recording crash?
But
Cosmonaut? Yeah.
You mean when he died? Because he died he went to space, he came back healthy, everything was okay, right?
No, there was one before him.
Oh, that wasn't the first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no idea how to spell cosmonaut. It would be
I think it's with K.
Oh yeah, maybe
I think
K
it's
O
cos.
S cosmonaut, or just type in astronaut Russia.
Yeah.
That's not where. No way.
No.
There's no way it's space between the two.
No space.
Cosmo.
I think with
there
a
it was.
U-
There you wait. One back.
No, not
Cosmo. Cosmo, and then
Maybe
just
I
put,
was wrong. Maybe it's
not.
with a K.
so COSMOS
with
and then not. Cosmonaut. And then just type in Russia. No. It's not public information. They only have the audio recording. Crashing audio. Death audio. There you go.
Uh-huh. Oh my God. It's so morbid.
Yeah. Well, it's macabre, I suppose, what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Is this the one that I'm on?
See, that's how you spell cosmonaut. Cosmonaut.
Okay.
Okay, go back. We don't need
In
to listen to the
English-
poor guy crying for help.
No, that's not.
But yeah,
So
that's
maybe they hit it, yeah. Why publish a failure?
yeah.
That's another issue, by the way, that...
These images were leaked. Whoa, that's macabre, dude.
Oh. Okay. Interesting.
Jesus Christ.
Looks like a piece of coal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's not going to be a lot that survives in re-entry.
Yeah. Well, anyways.
But yeah, they
So, but by the way, this also is another factor that let's say there was a cover-up of a failure, the inability to accept failure, like there was this show on Apple TV For All Mankind.
yeah.
I think there were 3 seasons or 4. I don't remember. Maybe there'll be another one. And then it was an alternate reality where the U.S. are not the first one to reach the moon. That is like the Soviet Union reaches the moon first, and that triggers like alternate reality where the U.S. now has to reach
Mars.
Yes. So then everything progresses like faster than in the real reality that we're living in, presumably. Anyway, so but that's also because they like they couldn't accept to accept with their position as number 2, right? But I'm just saying that let's say for systems that cannot accept that they failed, or that somebody who, let's say, like maybe that Chinese ex-president, I don't know, somebody has failed, now he is a shame, we need to get rid of him, right?
Wipe him from history.
You lose the experience, because there's a trend now in venture capital that the VCs look for entrepreneurs that have failed.
Yeah.
They want somebody who experienced failure. Now, if you live in a society where failure is like
Shunned.
Yes, like for example, in Japan, if you failed,
Europe.
maybe in
Yeah.
Europe, it's like you don't show your face again. You just go to your room, stay in your room. That's it.
Try again next life.
Yes. Or in Japan, maybe they do the the ritual.
Haku something. Yeah.
Yeah, they do something bad to themselves. Anyways, so I'm just saying that I think part of the reason that they are successful in the US with technology, and maybe that we are also successful, is that we are okay with failure. Yeah, okay, we didn't get this right this time. It's fine. We'll get it right the next time. But
And we
it's just
keep
that
building.
we don't give up on trying. So.
It's also that banks are willing to the only way to really achieve that is having a banking system that allows failure. And in Europe, for example, if you default on your payment because you went bankrupt as a business, then your name is red listed. Then
I think we are now red listing people. I don't think it's the banks that give them the money for those
enterprises.
Yeah, it would be the government through several support schemes that they'll have, and basically they have a system to give you money and also be without taking equity. They give you let's say basically it's a loan without I mean you have to give it back only if you made it. If your startup made it, you have to pay it back without interest, or maybe a very small interest. But if your startup didn't make it, you can default on that loan. You don't need to return the money. So basically, it's risk-free. If you made it, your startup is a success, fine, you return the money. It's nothing. But by that time, that original money is just a small amount. But you needed that small amount because you don't want to bring your family fortune to the table, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you only have one go, and you're done. If you're going to bring money from home, let's say.
They always say that, right? They say you always should borrow money rather than use your own money. That's right. That's because you have twice as much money then.
Yeah, but especially if the people who give you the money don't collect it if you fail, right?
Do you see then that potential VCs from the Middle East would want to go to Israel for potential firms and stuff like that? Do you see that as a future potentiality, and vice versa?
What do you mean? To open?
No, for funding.
To get funding from Israeli?
No, I mean for because right now, if you look at the Middle East, most VCs, venture capitalists, they usually go to businesses that are in America, generally speaking, right? They all hope that they can find another unicorn, another Uber, another Google, another Amazon. And so I think what really needs to happen is in this region alone, this region or any region really, is to wake up VCs and be like, hey, you know what? That's great, but you should also maybe invest in technologies in Berlin. Berlin is very, very advanced when it comes to telecommunications industries. UK for financial services, Israel for whether it be financial innovation or tech innovation. So I think that needs to happen a little bit.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yes, but first of all, there are VCs from this area that I think have some of them may be affiliated to governments, like affiliated to wealth funds.
Of course, indexes.
Like Mubadala and. No. I mean, like Mubadala has a venture capital arm. They invest in startups, but the idea is to invest in startups that would benefit either the founders are Emirati, or that the actual startup would be set up in the UAE, so it will invigorate the Emirati economy.
Domestic economy, yeah.
Yes. Although the startup can sell, obviously the market is probably going to be larger than the UAE. It can be...
Globally, sure.
It could be, yeah. But the thing is, first of all, is that okay, it depends on which stage, if you're talking early stage or not. But as you progress with the rounds, they usually don't invest by themselves. They co-invest. So you need to find a bunch of VCs that sees the potential in a startup for later rounds.
Sure.
It's huge amounts of money. And then
B or C or whatever round you do, yeah.
So it's not just the first angel who gave a check.
No.
You need to... So they need to look eye to eye. They need to all agree that this is a good investment. Now, because of... It's a question of... market, the size of the market, and everyone is looking to sell. Not everyone, but I mean maybe not in China, but in the West, okay, everyone is looking to sell in the US and in Europe, okay. But US is like number one market, then Europe, and then the rest.
By GDP, yeah.
No, but the amount of potential clients, either it's
sure
corporate clients or like it depends if it's a B2B startup or a B2C, but anyways you have more potential to, I mean, if you're going to start in the US, and then they also do the product market fit according to the US. So they rather have the product and be adjusted to the US market. And then if it also succeeds in Latvia, fine, okay.
Interesting.
We're not gonna. Now, basically, I think that there is, I wouldn't be in this space of kind of startups, which I am. I mean, in the last 2-3 years I started. If I didn't think that there is potential, I think, first of all, there are some, let's say, there are some products that are only fitting this part of the world. Or,
of course.
Or let's say, just an example in fintech, so Islamic banking.
Sure.
Okay.
Halal meat is not going to sell well in America.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Now, I did see in the London Underground, just a few weeks ago, there was a commercial for a Muslim dating app.
Sure.
Okay, so you can find it also, but where would you do the initial market product market fit, or where would you try it first, in London or in the Middle East? I don't know. I think in the Middle East, and then if it catches here, it will also make sense to expand it to London. Right?
No, you're completely
in terms
right.
of numbers.
Yeah, you're completely right.
So there are things, but you don't want. I think we don't want. Okay, only niche things to succeed here. Meaning in the Middle East. There are things they're not even very R&D demanding, simply good business model ideas. Like if you think about Airbnb, it's nothing to do with technology in Airbnb. It's a website. The business model.
Sure.
And those things, I think that can,
It has very little assets. I mean, it's a company completely built on non-tangible code, right? It's amazing.
But they succeeded, like Facebook. They succeeded in the marketing. They managed to become the generic name for this, right? I mean, like when you think of social media, you think Facebook. I don't know. Maybe you think Instagram. I don't know. I think Facebook. So when you think about a vacation apartment, so true, Booking.com has it now, Agoda has it, but the original one is Airbnb. You're going to say, let's find an Airbnb for the next vacation. You don't say, let's find Booking.com for the next vacation.
Sure.
Right?
So, it goes easier off the tongue as well.
Yeah.
It helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm just saying that why am I putting an emphasis on business models? Because business models sometimes are very they can work in a certain cultural environment, and then in some other cultural environment they might not work.
Of course.
So maybe if we want to figure out what are like interesting startups that can also sell in this part of the world, not just be
money drain or just a very niche item.
Yeah, that can actually, then I think that there will be those that are answering a particular characteristic of the market here.
But I mean, the more concerning part for me in a larger picture of this is like companies like Souk. Souk.com, UAE company, founded in the UAE, and then Amazon came and bought up the company, right?
Like Karim.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so there is that worry. I mean, China right now is worrying about TikTok because the US has been looking at either saying to China, if you want to operate here, we got to own that company. So there is that scale of it, right?
But the thing is, think about it this way. By the way, I don't have a TikTok account. I didn't use TikTok. I only imagine what it does. I mean, that you can edit your videos. But anyways, I'm just saying that Amazon bought Souk.com as simply a way to eliminate a competitor. But Souk.com, without putting them down or something, they didn't think of something unique to the Middle East, although the word souk is okay.
A Middle Eastern name,
Yes. But e-commerce, I don't know. Okay, it's nothing unique. Same to go with Kareem. I think Uber was pre-Kareem. I mean, so I'm just so the same. They wanted just to buy instead of going to the trouble of competing with them. Well, let's just buy them out, right?
But don't you feel that's one of the problems that's happening right now in business and entrepreneurship? Is that most companies are being built right now for the end goal to be bought, right? There is a lot to that, and there's
a lot of that's true. Yeah.
See,
I mean,
that's not innovative a product if you're just doing something in order to be bought by a bigger company.
It depends. But think about YouTube. Okay, YouTube was I don't know who founded it, but it was founded by someone, not Google, and then Google purchased them. I'm not sure that the business model was there yet at the beginning. I'm not sure that
it wasn't financially feasible at the beginning.
It was
making a loss. Yeah.
Maybe it needed the volume to reach what Google could give it in terms of volume, in terms of
search traffic.
Yes, the traffic.
Absolutely.
That they can create the business model for those creators and whatever. So, but somebody came up with the idea of a website for videos. Somebody. But that was new for then. Now, it's hard to speculate what will be the new thing because if I would know, I would maybe.
It would be a trillionaire. Yeah,
right. But I'm just saying that that I think that the new things that fits that has the product market fit for this region should be invented in this region.
Sure.
And not in the US and then copied here.
Sure. But I think this is the problem with this region in general. You find, anything that is even a monocle successful, Sham Schlepp will go and copy exactly that same model. Look at all the coffee shops, right? Look how many
the co-working spaces you mean?
Co-working spaces, coffee shops, anything that any person who makes something that is a little bit successful, you'll instantly find people duplicate the model. The amount of guests I've had on the show who've contacted me like 3 months, 2 months later and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm starting to start my own show." I'm like, "Yeah, great, go do it." But it's very strange to me. There's not a lot of innovation. You know what I mean? It's a lot of just...
because it's hard to innovate.
That's also true.
It's hard to stumble upon a really good idea that you...
or at least make it better. That's the only thing you have to do. Just take an existing idea. Just make it better.
A little bit better.
That's all you have to do. That's innovation enough. But people don't even do that.
But because the expectation from startups today is not to make something a little bit better, which we can call evolution, right? The expectation from a startup is to be a revolution, to disrupt, right?
Yeah.
To turn things on their heads. And that's something that those ideas, the small, features, yes. A lot of people can think about small features in our everyday lives. What if this was a little bit different, right? But to think of something that totally
radical.
Let's say, if we go back to Airbnb, okay, the biggest hotel chains without any rooms,
sure,
without no real estate,
sure.
Okay, so let's call this radical, okay? So to think of something that radical, and then not just to think about it, also have the power to persuade. Still, okay, you can think of something crazy. Maybe it's crazy in a good way, but now you need to persuade a lot of people to give you money for that.
I think
it's not that easy as well.
It's not just that you need the VCs to give you money, but you also need to have the enough, as we call it in the Middle East, wasta. You have to have enough connection and power from a political standpoint, so that the industry that you're trying to disrupt doesn't just kill you immediately. I mean, very famously, New York under, I forgot which mayor it was, with Uber. It was Mayor Giuliani.
Okay. Yeah.
That he tried to kill Uber because
He did?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
because his voting base is obviously the taxi unions.
Yes, the unions. Yeah.
Right, and the taxi unions is an interesting business because the medallion for the taxis, because there's a locked amount of number, and since the 1960, I think, or 1970, there hasn't been another medallion printed. So each medallion,
It's like Bitcoin.
exactly.
You have a limited amount that you can mine. And
Exactly, and so those
we had
medallions.
the same thing. I didn't know that it happened in New York. I mean, in Israel, they started Uber, and the taxi companies, not unions, but the taxi companies objected, and we outlawed it.
That's the problem, right?
And it's a problem not just in taxis. We have this problem in a lot of other sectors that have kind of cartelish
Behavior.
Yes, they control a segment, and we're trying to, for example, to open up the market for agriculture goods from wherever, right? You have the eggs, the ones who are
No, I agree.
the eggs union or whatever.
I met-
we don't allow that. Why? We will strike.
I met the Israeli ambassador of Bahrain, a very smart man. I met him
Eitan.
actually in the Ritz because they were going through a contract negotiation of buying potentially their food supply from Israel vendor.
You mean for the Ritz, for the purpose
Ritz.
of their kosher?
Exactly.
So they need a kosher like vegetables for that? Or?
I don't know. I think they want to switch their entire supply chain from the imports of food to that Israeli distributor, basically.
Okay.
But that's the kind of stuff you need to happen in order to build better connections within a union. These are normal things.
Yeah.
Very smart man, yeah.
Yeah. I just learned today that they've signed a new architectural design for the new embassy, permanent embassy.
Oh, fantastic.
Somewhere. I don't know where, but somewhere, yeah.
I met Ajur a long time ago. Ajur is the guy who held, I think, the first representatives a few years ago.
Itai Tanger? He was head of mission.
No, I don't think he was head of mission. He's a bigger guy.
Oh,
his name is Ajur.
Oh, so no, not the same guy.
Not the same
The
guy.
guy that I'm talking was skinny. No.
Yeah, no. The guy I'm talking about is a bigger guy like us.
Okay.
And I think he had the mission, some Israeli missionaries, not missionaries, some of them from the Israeli mission here in Bahrain before the talk of the embassy.
I heard that there was
3-4 years ago. Yeah,
an informal embassy.
Yeah.
I didn't know the guy.
Yeah, it was.
But I learned about it later. But there were signs that are under the radar relations.
It has to happen.
Well, with
Merchants
some
and
countries,
merchants.
it still didn't. I mean, we hear rumors that, or maybe there are more than rumors that Bibi met with MBS at Neom, and who knows? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. One day, maybe not because he just published his autobiography. So maybe not in this version of the autobiography. Maybe in a few years.
Maybe the redacted version.
They'll issue another. But things are happening below radar, and then one day they.
That's
But
good.
with Bahrain, I think there were signs since 2015 or 16. There were signs. I had a feeling that something will happen. I didn't guess that it would happen in 2020 and as fast. I mean,
good.
it was,
I mean, it's in my opinion 20 years. It took 20 years too long.
Yeah, it could have happened in the 90s.
Exactly.
By the way, it kind of did. There was a visit by Israeli Minister for Environmental Protection or something in the 90s. He was part of Rabin's cabinet. His name was Yossi Sarid, and he was invited to an international meeting here in Bahrain. It was It was in the newspapers then. But with Bahrain, it didn't progress because, Israel opened in the 90s after the Oslo agreements. They opened first of all, we had an embassy in Morocco. And then we opened, I think they call it interest office or something like that, which basically it's a lower level of diplomatic, mission in Oman and in Qatar. In Oman, it closed after a few years, and in Qatar, it lasted
A little longer.
a little longer. With Bahrain, we didn't have this formal thing, but I think that maybe during that time, I'm not sure, they started little less formal relations.
So what do you think is required to finally get some what's the right way of putting it? To have the relationship as secure as iron. Let's put it that way. To really
That's a good
build
question. It's
relations
it's part of what I'm trying to do, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
I give the let's say the lesson, okay, that I think not me personally, but we, let's say in Israel, learned from the peace agreement with Egypt. With the peace agreement with Egypt started. Now, Egypt, mind you, was the first one we signed the peace agreement with. Until then, okay, Israel had relations with the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, even before Israel was formed. Was actually very good relations. But other than with the Jordanians, we didn't have any relations with any Arab country, right? And then, not just we didn't have relations, we had wars with, and Egypt was the leading, first of all, it was the leading country in the Arab world. I mean, the Gulf didn't even have independence yet when we had,
of course,
the war in 48 and 56 and 67. As you mentioned, the Gulf countries didn't gain independence. 71, 72, maybe most
sure.
of them, right?
1971 was with the British independence. The constitution of where Israel would be placed was under the UN agreement. Specifically, recommendation came from Stalin, of all people.
To do what? The recommendation to?
So where Israel would be placed, and was actually a recommendation from Stalin, famously.
You mean in the UN?
And the UN agreement.
Okay.
This was in 19... Can you look that up just to make sure I'm not talking out of my
I'm
ass?
not sure what you're talking about.
Stalin, Israel.
Oh, this is going to be a lot of material there.
Yeah, it was Stalin, right? The Soviet Union gave diplomatic recognition to Stalin in 1948 because
they voted for partition.
Yeah. They voted for
true.
partition, and I think it was around the 1940s where they wanted to have the Jewish people positioned in Israel, but where Israel would be placed was under the UN, scrutiny. It doesn't matter. We're talking about almost 100 years ago. And my history isn't exactly great.
Maybe they had their own proposal because before 48, there was a dynamic there. It just happened overnight. There was the UN partition plan basically is a British way out of the mess they created. Okay, it's simply we deliver the hot potato to the UN. This is our. We commissioned a delegation to come and talk with the parties, and this is their recommendation. This is the plan. So after this failed because
look what the UK did to India and Pakistan and Bangladesh, right? They
also
yeah, come on. There was a reason why they cut it that way, right? Yeah. they ensured that there would be conflict.
By the way, it's approximately the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah, a little before.
Yeah.
But so I'm just saying then between the time that the partition plan it was accepted by the General Assembly, but it was rejected by one of the parties. So it doesn't matter that the General Assembly can say what they want, but one of the parties, which is the Arab side, decided no. So there was no plan. The Americans tried to bring their own offer, a new one. And maybe the Russians as well. I'm not sure. The Soviets. The American idea was to take over the mandate because the mandate was given to the United Kingdom by the League of Nations in 21, I think, or something. Or maybe it was given in 1918, and then in San Remo it was re-given again. Anyways, so that's the League of Nations. The UN had another thing, and they call it the mandate system. There were a few countries in Africa, if I remember correctly, that had mandates. Syria had a mandate. The French got that mandate. Anyways, what is the mandate? It's simply sovereignty for a transitional period to prepare a country to be sovereign, to be independent, to prepare it. So basically, you say, yes, we're not colonialists because we're just preparing you for being a grown-up, right? And by the way, they did help. Trains, postal services, telephones, their judicial system, they gave a lot of stuff, the British. Also in
Interestingly,
India.
bring this up because Milton Friedman makes exactly the same point, the economist Milton Friedman, and he says that any country that gets colonized, the money spent and the ROI perspective from the colonizer is always negative. The money necessary to invest for the roads, education, trains, post books.
More than what you get.
More than the resources that they take out.
Oh,
and Milton Friedman makes that really interesting point, and he says that from a perspective of just a profit or loss, from the UK, it was a net loss.
So basically,
fascinating.
They did a favor to the world.
Exactly. Isn't that fascinating to think about? Yeah.
Speaking of Britain again and London, I was walking by this shop in London called the East India Company.
A trading company, yeah.
It's a tea shop. They sell tea. And that's the company, that's the actual company that used to rule over the India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. Now they sell tea.
And it's owned by an Indian.
Yes. It was bought by an Indian.
Yeah. Life goes full circle, doesn't it?
Yes. But I was thinking about the American offer. The American offer between 47 and 48 was to take a mechanism that is part of the UN, not part of League of Nations. It's called trusteeship. To continue the mandate, don't call it a mandate, call it trusteeship, led by the Americans. And then, before letting the parties fight it out, let's just drag this thing for another, 20 years, okay? Let's just drag this thing, because if we let you handle it, it'll explode, right?
Sure.
And it did. But this trusteeship wasn't, I'm not sure why it wasn't adopted. Maybe there were other offers.
Or maybe profit was involved.
Yeah, I don't know. But mind you, then the Americans weren't specifically, they had no specific attachment to the Jews in Palestine. There was it's not like what you have now. There's an alliance. There was no alliance.
1947 is when the U.S. Was still in the isolation policies. It's called. Can you look that up? It was the isolation policies. When did it end? That's when the U.S. was not interested in policing the world.
But they were aligned with the Saudis.
Yeah, from 1937 to 1945. That's when it ended. Sorry, 2 years before. Was it 2 years before Israel's split, or when was it? 1948 or 1947?
No, the partition plan was adopted by the General Assembly at 47.
At 47, okay.
But there were two phases for the war. There was one phase starting a day after that partition plan, which you can call a civil war. Okay, it was done by irregular people. Then, when the mandate ended officially on 15th of May 48, a day later came invasion by regular Arab armies. Egypt and Jordan and Lebanon and Iraq and anyways, a lot. But doesn't matter. The conflict really started the day after the partition plan. All of the attempts.
I mean, everyone knew that, really. To be honest, I think that was not like
no.
They made sure that this.
Yeah, there are two stages of that war. It's basically it didn't start in 40. It started in 47.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the way most people look at that war is like, right? It's the start of the Arab-Israeli conflict, but basically it was more of there was also an aspect there of internal Arab conflict on who is the leader of the Arab world, because the Hashemites, they helped the British defeat the Ottomans. They were promised to rule an Arab state across all of Arabia.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then the Saudis kicked their butts out of the Hijaz, and the British gave them Transjordan. They carved up Transjordan. They gave it to the Hashemites, and they and also Syria, because there were two. Also, Syria for a few months was Hashemite, and then the French intervened and they kicked I think Emir Faisal. They kicked him from Damascus to Iraq, and then they formed the Iraqi branch of the Hashemite Kingdom of Iraq. What I'm saying is that at 47, basically there was a clash not just between the Jews of Palestine and the Arabs of Palestine. It was who's going to lead the Arab world. It's going to be the Hashemites, and are they going to take control of Jerusalem and pretend like they're the leaders of the Arab world, or is going to be King Farouk, who's like, the ruler of Egypt, who is going to intervene, and he's going to be the leader of the Arab world. Who is more leader of the Arab world?
Who is a better warrior?
Yes.
Who had the better marriage salary, usually?
Basically, we and the Hashemites had a silent agreement. We're basically not really fighting. We didn't really fight with the Jordanians because now, okay, I'm just telling you what I studied at Tel Aviv University.
I don't know anything about this region's history. I studied in the
maybe
UAA.
Somebody else will, probably somebody else will say it's bullshit. But the way I got the story is that Emir Abdallah, who was later King Abdallah, from Jordan, he didn't mind the Jews having a country, and he preferred it to be under his rule. He offered it to Golda Meir. Why you need independence? I'll give you everything you want, just under my rule. But no, we wanted independence, and
otherwise you could have just stuck with the UK. Yeah.
Yeah, we took to a lot of trouble to kick them out. So now we're gonna settle for less than
what we originally got. Yeah.
But then we didn't really fight with them. The only fighting with the Jordanians was in Jerusalem itself, the control of the old city, and we lost. They took control of the entire old city.
Yeah.
But the real fight was against the Egyptians to not allow because the Egyptians could have actually gone and wiped Israel off the map, and we were lucky to stop them. But I'm just saying that this whole conflict, and then later on, was infused by the different leading the challenge for leadership of the Arab world.
Okay.
Who is more patriotic and who is more?
Oh, okay. You think that's the reason it escalated into a further rhetoric of that nation?
Because later you see, just before 67,
interesting.
Nasser.
Okay.
By the way, Nasser was during the war of 48. He was part of the invading Egyptian army. He was actually there was negotiations between the armies, and he actually received an Israeli commander in a place that was called Fallujah pocket or Fallujah encirclement or whatever. It's a place where the Egyptian army was caught, so encircled, and we had negotiations with them anyways. And it says that when he accepted that general, I think his name was Shlomo Goren. He was a rabbi, by the way. A general, but also a rabbi, and he accepted him with full military honors. Okay? So Nasser, yeah, he was Egyptian. He was an Egyptian patriot.
Yes. I remember what you're talking about. Yeah, and there was a rabbi. Yes. It's clicking now. Yeah.
And he, yes, he was against Israel, but he wasn't crazy. Okay, and he knew that his army is not ready in 67. He didn't want 67, but the Syrians, whoever was there in control, kept
pushing that envelope,
saying, they are doing things. They would send planes or whatever, and then we would retaliate. So then they would say, they are doing things like we are doing things, and you are doing nothing. You are powerless. They were taunting him. So eventually he gave in. He was taunted, and then he had to show that, no, okay. So I'm closing the Strait of Tehran. I'm kicking off the UN. This is how 67 started. So I'm just saying the conflict was always like infused with the challenge to the position of leader of the Arab world. Who is who is in a better prospect to be the leader? The one who is more against Israel.
Interesting.
Better because he's stronger. Because he's right. Anyways, I'm not trying to. I'm only talking about this academically. There are a lot of conflicts in the world. Okay, there are similarities, and
I'm not an expert in historian.
It's not the worst conflict, by the way, in terms of. Not that I'm trying to diminish. Of course, every person who dies is a loss for his family, and
true.
But if you compare it to other conflicts, it's not that bloody. Let's say there were days in the First World War that in a day the number of casualties was more than the 75 years or 120 years, depends on when you want to start counting, of the entire conflict with Israel and the Arabs.
Well, look
in a day.
Look at not Karzai. What was his name again, Danny? Not Kabal. What was his name? I forgot his name. No. The leader who took over most of China, from the Mongol society. Mongolian society.
Yeah.
Genghis Khan. He
Yes.
killed 40 million people in a lifetime.
By the way, he reached. The Middle East.
Yeah. Marco Polo, right? They had.
No, Marco Polo wasn't.
Was afterwards, yes.
Right, but he
was under the Genghis Empire, and he had 4 sons, he had a lot more sons than 4, but 4 of them chose each one a district, and then they kind of separated over a while.
Yeah, Genghis Khan's
Grandkhans, yeah.
No, I'm just saying Marco Polo didn't kill anyone, to the best of my knowledge.
No, but they had trading with the West.
Oh, okay, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Fascinating, no?
Yeah. But, the entire history is,
do you not think this
swimming in blood?
Do you not think that this conflict is just religious nonsense on both parties? Because when I look at it, I think of it like how Ireland is, right? With the Protestants versus the Catholic, right?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous to have conflict over religious differences.
No, but it's
being agnostic myself. Sorry.
No, it's okay. But I don't think it's a. First of all, there is a religious dimension. I don't think it's the main one. I think people use the religion to recruit followers for their belief, but I don't think there is any religious, let's say, if there was a religious aspect to it, like complete, no way to settle both faith, then we wouldn't see the peace with Egypt, we wouldn't see the peace with the UAE and Bahrain and Jordan, and we wouldn't see those things, right? I think that the jihadists, can I say that? There are those.
I don't care.
They use Islam to recruit,
Sure.
but their motivation is religious. I don't know. Maybe it is, but I think that the basis of the conflict is simple. It's a national conflict.
So,
We wanted a nation, an independent nation.
This goes back to the Israelites, I imagine. No?
No, I mean, when Zionism started in the late 19th century,
Yeah.
because of, first of all, there were a few factors, but the main one is the anti-Semitism and the pogroms in Russia and Eastern Europe. Russia then included Poland. So basically, Ukraine, Poland, it was all Russia. So the pogroms in Eastern Europe, the weakening of the Ottoman Empire, because the Ottoman Empire at that point was so weak that if you can imagine, Egypt was carved out of the Ottoman Empire, ruled by Britain, informally, by the way. They were so weak they couldn't resist. In Jerusalem, all the major powers of the world, not just, it was ruled by the Ottomans, right? They had consulates so strong that they could do whatever they want in Jerusalem. Marriages, whatever they wanted.
But why do you think
the Ottoman Empire was collapsing?
But why do you think this factor with Jerusalem is such an important factor? I mean, the church had 2 holy wars and wanted to. They had 3 holy wars.
You mean the Crusades?
The Crusades.
Yes.
Yeah, there were 3 in total, right? I mean, twice they lost.
Counting it after the.
But you know what I mean? I don't understand why people are so desperate for religious conflict on that scale. I mean. That's the way I see it,
yeah.
Let me have a coffee. Would you like a coffee as well, or an iced tea, or Sprite? Can you type in the artist who's painting their eyes follow you? So there's an art technique in drawing.
Like the Mona Lisa. It said that the eyes there are following you wherever you.
There's tromper l'œil.
Oh. Trump, it's probably Trump originally.
Napoleon has a famous painting with it where his shoe follows you wherever you go.
His shoe?
Yeah, that shows you the level of arrogance for that man.
Yeah. Well, he did have a big ego.
Yeah.
Not a very big guy, but a big ego.
Surprisingly, he wasn't that short. He was 5'7". That was just British propaganda.
Oh, really? How much is 5'7" in centimeters?
That's close to 170 centimeters, I think.
Oh, back then it wasn't that short.
No, not at all. He was an average-sized man, but
so the British just
false propaganda.
It worked.
Yeah, that's how we associate Napoleon now. And the idea of Napoleon complex is also something that the British invented.
But it said that he was left-handed. I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
Well, anyways.
That's not here or there.
But you know that speaking of, I don't know, Napoleon, speaking of Napoleon, no, we were speaking before of the Arab-Israeli conflict and Zionism. And Napoleon brought a suggestion when he conquered Palestine, and he conquered Egypt as well, right? He suggested that the Jews would have their own independent state there. It was one of his suggestions. I don't know why it didn't work out. Who kicked them out of there? Somebody kicked them out of there. I don't know, maybe the British. It didn't work out.
Do you not feel that the same problem that happens in the Middle East is the same problem that's in Europe, in the sense that I don't remember which governor or former prime minister said. He said that the European Union is the only chance for Europe to not be in war with each other. For the last 2,000 years of European history, from ancient Rome,
yes.
Europe has always been in some sort of conflict, whether it was Prussia, whether it was French and German in World War I, with Second World War, the Napoleon conflicts, Rose Wars.
Even when they were under the Middle Ages, those city-states would fight between them. Those smaller,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the European Union is the only chance that Europe has to not be in conflict with one another.
Yeah, maybe.
It
but,
is.
But I think that the reason that they haven't been in conflict is that maybe they were all afraid of the Soviet Union.
Fair point.
They were under the protection of the U.S. In terms of nuclear deterrence. Okay, yes, France and Britain has their own arsenal, but all the other European countries don't have their own arsenal. So they were under the nuclear umbrella of NATO, right? So now they have to be... basically, if you fear someone from the outside more, then you create your own alliance, which is...
Interesting that you bring that up, because if you look at it from the Russian perspective, when they talk about JFK and the Cold War, from their perspective, they say that JFK was the cause of the Cold War because he was antagonizing the USSR at the time. And that's how the Cuba Missile Crisis started from, was a direct result of Russia feeling antagonized by JFK.
But what did he do? I mean, okay, he tried to invade Cuba, the Bay of Pigs or something.
Exactly.
He tried to invade Cuba.
So it's funny how history is different depending on which one you're going to.
True. But okay, but you have to remember those are the Russians. They claim things. Sometimes they're But
I mean, we're both very pro-USA. We speak English. We wear American products.
I think the USA is okay. I think they are clumsy. I think they've done stupid mistakes, and those mistakes, sometimes you say, how did George Bush said it? He said it incorrectly. But
sometimes the right hand doesn't know what the left hand wants to do, and he got those two mixed up. He said right while putting it his left.
Okay, maybe he also said that.
He did a lot of
but
stuff.
But I think that how do you say blooper? Anyways, he said something like one time. Shame on you. Second time, shame on you, or something like that. When it's shame on me, right?
Yeah.
So basically, they did those mistakes that are, let's call them regime change, trying to intervene in a country. Panama, I don't know, could be in South America, somewhere Central America, or in Iraq. Okay, or in Iran before the
Vietnam.
In Vietnam. Yes, but Vietnam they had a little bit of a different story because they had the South Vietnamese as their allies. Simply, they chose as allies a very corrupt government that wasn't really fighting. That was just a kleptocracy or something like that. That they drew them in into this. Anyways. But I'm just saying that they really believed that domino. There was a fear that if you lose South Vietnam, then you're going to lose South Korea, then you're going to lose West Germany, because the Soviets wants to expand and expand. So I'm just saying, but they did mistakes. So like Vietnam, then they redid them. Why redo it? You have to learn from your mistakes. So I think, but in general, I think that, they are a force for good. They didn't do it for
profiteering.
Yes, or just for, so you can say they wanted to control oil. But they wouldn't control oil in the sense that they would take all of the oil profits. They would be the main customer, they would get a good price, but still let's say, call it Iraq, okay? But still the Iraqi people would get money from that oil. Instead of selling it to the Chinese, they would sell it to the Americans, right? So what I'm saying is, I don't think they are doing things out of malign intention. Sometimes things go awkward for them, just putting it in a mild term. Because of also, those systems, and I can see it in Israel. Because it's not a dictatorship, okay? Those systems tend to, they can decide one thing today, then the next day there's a shift. Congress is now Republican, now they can't pass this, right? So they need to change. So you can't play really plan a long term because you're constantly
infighting.
Yes. So if you even look at the Vietnam years, you know, it started with JFK. Then there was, I don't remember, there was the one who replaced him, Johnson. And then there was Ford, and then there was Nixon. And probably in between...
Bush Senior, after came Nixon,
who was before? What?
Was it Reagan or Bush Senior after Nixon?
No, Reagan after Nixon.
Reagan, yeah.
Yeah, Bush was after Reagan.
Bush was after
Senior.
Reagan, yeah.
No, but I'm saying is that, so if you think about, if you ask yourself, was there a strategy for the US in Vietnam? So you have to ask, what is the US? When? The US with JFK, with a Democratic Congress or not Democratic Congress? And then, because you have those half-terms elections, right? So it's also hard to extrapolate a strategy when you change all the time. Now, that's democracy, right? A country like China with a single party that has
Putin, by the way, said the same thing you just said earlier last month. Yeah, he said that I've survived. I've been part of 5 U.S. Presidents or 5 U.S. different timepieces, administrations. And he said exactly the same words where you were. And the greatest difficulty the U.S. has is to start something and finish it.
Right. So I'm just saying, when I look at things going wrong for a country like America or for Israel, I can, you know, if you believe in a conspiracy, you need to think, wow, they are so well, they can execute things so thoroughly. They must be but I see the mess, the chaos, you know. I can't believe that this thing is orchestrated. We can't even start the school year without a strike. How are we going to, I'm just saying,
sure.
How are we going to plan this? We can't plan for the milk to cost this. So, you know what I'm saying?
But from the U.S. perspective, especially what we get from the media side of it, these are all issues that is very fixable in the U.S. very quickly if it wants to have them fixed. White House has more than often called up Twitter and said certain key people, hey, remove them off your platform.
Oh. and until they remove Trump.
Exactly. So famously, a few doctors who were very anti-vaccine, the White House called in to Twitter and said, get those people off your platform.
Okay. I'm for that.
Can you look that up on Twitter? Sorry, on Twitter. Can you look that up on Google? Yeah.
By the way, I think that I'm for free speech.
Sure.
But free speech is not free microphone like this one. It's, the microphone or the stage, the platform.
You didn't answer you didn't put the keywords correctly. White House tells Twitter to remove.
No, there was, okay.
Anti-vaccine. White House working with Joe Biden to curb pandemic taking office, including Americans, one of the top priorities.
Censorship, maybe the White
there,
House.
I'll find it for you. It was.
Maybe this one, the Wall Street Journal. Maybe no, that one.
I'll find it for you. The guy was on Joe Rogan and he talks about it. Joe Rogan is a news source, but he interestingly talks exactly about this issue. Sorry, you were saying
they want money. No,
yeah, of course.
We're not gonna pay. No, I was saying about I don't think that freedom of speech means that you have a right to have a microphone, which means the microphone is the
ability to express your ideas in a larger scope.
You go to Hyde Park, you shout. Why do we need to give you a prime time or a platform? This is something else.
I agree, but it leads to a bigger issue, right? In that you have then false narratives being in place, or in worst case scenarios is if you have bad actors then influencing the larger scope of the media, right? That's your real danger.
No, true, but I'm just saying that
To fight bad speech is to introduce good speech. That's what I always believe in.
we want to believe that the audience, let's say, with no to filter, and will say, okay, this is bad speech, this is good speech. But what happens if they believe that the bad speech is the good speech?
But do you not feel that the problem starts and ends with the education system to begin with? Like, why is it that most people never get taught in school how to keep a checkbook, how to be financially conscious? Why is it in school that they don't teach you how to invest in index funds? You know, the most safest investments you can make.
They don't teach a lot of stuff in school these days.
Right?
I mean, it depends on the school a bit. But, I mean, in public schools, at least in Israel, they don't teach many things. And now they're even trying to reduce the number of those subjects that you're going to be tested in matriculation exams. So they're trying to basically reduce humanities. They're saying, in order to be a successful person, you need to study math and English. Right, they're right. Basically, you need to know English today to succeed in life. And history, not that important. Humanities in general, literature, not that. Yeah, study it, but we're not going to test you. We're not going to make an exam. And so
I agree with you. It's an issue.
I think about it. We were discussing startups, okay? Yeah, you need to know math for maybe if you want to be a software engineer. But in order to be the founder with an interesting solution to a problem that requires you to think artistically, to think about a problem in multi-disciplinary way, you need to learn also humanities. You can't just be a machine that writes code. Yeah, you need those, but eventually those, by the way, will be machines.
I agree.
Because they are already there, right?
I agree with you, 100%.
You need the creative people. The creative people have to learn. I'm not just saying only humanities, because you can
go too extreme in each direction.
Yeah,
can't
you need a mix. Now I can tell you, I studied in a high school. It's a very famous high school in Tel Aviv that is called Tichon HaChadash, which means the new high school. It wasn't that new, but it started in the 20s or 30s. But it was a new concept, meaning that the idea of those who founded it was, first of all, there used to be a very strict
entry
code,
process.
Not entry process. A code of conduct back then. Like some schools, the teachers could even do physical punishment, like slapping you on the
hand, or yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if it was that common in the 30s, but it was a phenomenon. It was around. But let's leave that aside. You have to address the teacher in a certain way, like with Mr. or Mrs. or those formalities, and you have to dress with a school attire. So this school decided no. The students were going to address the teachers by their private names. We won't do those strict formalities. The students won't have to rise and stand when the teacher enters the classroom, right? And that was back then in the 30s. I'm talking about
thing, yeah.
20th century 30s. It was, new, and no formal attire. Anyone can dress with it. But they also had in the way they did the school programs, they did changes. Like they would say, until then, most of the schools make you choose. Are you gonna major in humanities or in sciences? You have to choose. Now, okay, but what if I'm interested in both? Or I'm interested in sciences, but I'm not that good in math, but I like chemistry. So basically, this school decided that you can pick and choose whatever you want. Like you can study chemistry with theater, right? And you can
Finesse your things.
Yeah, you can do a tailor-made program for each student, basically, permitting the scheduling and whatever. So why did I brought that up? Because I went to that kind of school, and then in university I also did my picking and choosing. Like I studied, I started doing I don't know if you call it there were two majors, economics and cinema studies, like two different things, right? And then after a year, I switched to political science and cinema studies. And then the third year, I decided I'm going to stick just with cinema studies because I was lazy. No, because I didn't like the math. Anyways, so I decided I'll go with cinema studies. And but even cinema studies don't teach you just cinema. It's a mix. They teach you psychology and music and theater and you
got more than you signed up for.
Yeah, no, but this is what I wanted. Basically, I went to study cinema, but I wanted to study cultural studies, and I did kind of because I could choose to study more of music and more of theater if I wanted to, or anyways.
Well, if you're big into movies, you should come to our movie nights.
Oh, okay. You have movie nights? Good.
Yeah.
Good.
We like watching more like old school kind of films, like stuff that came out in 1957, stuff like that.
I like from time to time to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dope.
Good. Movie nights.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Anyways, go on. So
so I'm saying that so that was for my BA, right? Now, and then in my later, but I didn't even try and find work in cinematography or in television. I didn't, because I wasn't up to that. I realized I wasn't that good, because during those years so my BA became, instead of 3 or 4 years, it became 7. Because the first 3 years was just finding out the right
path.
Yes. And then I started, and then even...
The guest before you, also 7 years.
And what?
Also 7 years.
No.
For their undergrad. The guest before you.
Oh, the guest before. Yes.
Yes. It's, both of you, exactly 7.
Okay. Yeah. It's a lucky number.
Well, okay, yeah, I guess so.
Number.
So you did 7 years.
So it dragged, right? And but some people, when they treat their education, the higher education, as a path for career, right? They study this, they want to practice this. But I knew that I'm not going to practice this because first of all, I wasn't that good. I tried during those years that I did only exclusively cinema studies. Even in cinema studies, you have, let's say, you major in script writing. Or your major in theoretical cinema, theory of cinema, whatever. Or you major in production. And I wanted to major in production because that's basically directing. I wasn't good enough because in order to go into that branch, yes, let's say you need to produce a short movie. And there's a committee, they watch the movie, and then they decide if you're okay or not. So I was 3 times not okay, but they did allow me, okay, fine, you are so stubborn, so we'll give you just a few hours. You can learn a few hours of directing or a few hours of what interested me. So basically I did this degree, and I knew also the reason I knew I'm not going to work in this, because I realized the life of a cinematographer, let's say, I wasn't interested in television. I was only interested in cinematography, movies. Is first of all, you have to you have to have a muse, right? To think about an idea, a script, or whatever. Because I wanted to be an author, right? I wanted to do the script and the movie, right? My baby. So you need to think about it. Takes you a year. Yes. Then you need to write it. Then you need to start raising money for it, right? You need to go to those funds and tell them this is my synopsis, and then they. So to get a movie done might take 5-6 years out of your life if you're lucky. Can maybe take 10, maybe take forever if you don't get any funding. And I said, I don't want this life. I don't want to have to walk around and beg for money. Now, little did I realize then that it's very similar to startups. A founder of a startup, he's begging for money, literally. He's begging. And then I realized that this is the multidisciplinary thing, that I just wanted to use this as an example. Later in life, when I started to get to know the tech ecosystem, I realized how similar producing a movie is to making a product, a software, a startup. Because basically, you start up with an idea, right? Basic synopsis. And then you have to write the script. Now, maybe you get a scholarship to write the script, or maybe you don't. But eventually, you need to pitch your idea in front of a committee or a investor, committee or cinematic committee. Doesn't matter. You will present storyboards, which are very similar to mock-ups.
Ashtray.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes. And basically,
storyboards similar to mock-ups?
Are similar to mock-ups that you show, right? Storyboards are those cartoonish scenes that when you
Thank you, sir.
When you start to think about directing a movie. So how do you explain your vision? How do you explain that the close-up that you want? What's going to be in that frame, right? So you make a small cartoon. You show it to the camera guy, right? You show it to the lighting guy. You show it to
the set designer.
Yes. So you need to.
I studied film as well, by the way.
Oh, okay. So you know. All right.
I studied economics, sociology, psychology, and film.
Oh my God. So very similar, multidisciplinary. Yes, good. So basically, I'm just saying that it's very similar to the life cycle of a startup. And also, people who are, some people don't sell the startup and continue, it becomes a lifestyle company maybe, or just it's a good ride, so they never quit. But for those who are repetitive, right? So it's like a movie. It takes them 5-6 years. They cash out. Now the time for the next challenge. Like, now the time for the next movie, right? You deliver the baby, now
you figure out what you want to do next.
Yeah. So basically, it's very similar. And now I'm not a startup. I don't have a startup at the moment. I'm thinking of one, but I might be thinking about one for the next 2 or 3 years until I do something about it. How do you lower the congestion in a city, let's say, like Manama or New York? It doesn't matter, in a city.
There's a bunch of ways.
Yeah, there are a bunch of ways, but the way relating to what I am thinking. So delivery drones, it's not a new concept.
Sure.
But
delivering people on a drone.
Well, that's...
I think that's a little too out there.
Those are called flying cars.
Yeah.
And they are struggling to make them a reality. No, but the drones, the way they are, those delivery drones, either by Amazon or Uber, they suffer from a few major misconceptions, I think. And I think I figured a way to overcome those misconceptions. I can give just an example. Usually the person who gets the delivery has to be there when the delivery arrives. And this also leads to they limit it to, I'm not talking about those who deliver medicines. In Africa, there are those. Or who deliver a heart for transplant. Oh my God, I wouldn't want a heart to be delivered by a drone, but never mind.
I'm okay with that. Whatever. If it's a heart, it's a heart.
It's a heart.
As long as it hasn't fallen down, who cares? You can wipe a little bit of the dirt off.
Just
Dust it.
Dust it. Yeah. No, so I'm talking about that the whole concept is around me ordering a pizza, or me ordering a burger, or me ordering a book. I'm just saying those are not, first of all, there are solutions for those things now. We don't need another technology for it. There is. It's going along fine. I get the pizza, I get the burger, I get
whatever you like.
I'm trying to figure out how we gonna save a trip to the supermarket. That now I know people order online. I know, but they order online. They have to be home to get it.
Sure.
I want to avoid the connection between me having to be home at a certain time and the delivery arriving at that certain time. Because if you think about it, what happens? Everybody is home, let's say, more or less same times, right? So everybody gets back from work. Rush hour is 5, 6. Okay, now they have to eat. They're ready for the delivery at 8. But everyone is ready for the delivery at 8. So you got a bottleneck at 8.
Sure.
I'm saying no. You need to figure out a way to deliver the things when the people are not all at the same time. You want to spread it out. This is how you deal with congestion. So I have an idea. I think maybe I kind of gave it in, that the delivery will be able to be collected even when you're not home. In an automated way, obviously, not a person collecting it for you. So basically, that's part of the idea. And I think that a lot of those companies that does it in the last 10 years or something that they started doing it, since Amazon said that they're going to do it, they are all beating around the bush. And even in Israel now, they have a pilot. Again, they're going to deliver a burger. Come on, okay, fine. You want to deliver a burger with a drone, deliver it. But it's not going to solve any issue for society, you know? And I'm trying to think about how we're going to really reduce the amount of a lot of cars, you know?
It's interesting. Amazon mentioned that their problem with their drone, why drones don't right now exist delivering, is because of regulation. They said that's
a lot of those. Basically, in the US, they treat every drone flight as a flight. It has to be documented with the
flight agency, the T something. I know
something. Yes.
TSA. No, that's transportation.
TSA are the ones investigating
Security
the crashes,
Authority.
I think.
Yeah.
No, I think it's Federal Aviation Authority, FAA. Or
FAA, yeah.
Now, they have automated ways of recording this, so it's not like somebody has to call and, okay, there are protocols, APIs that can do it, but there are a lot of those restricted no-fly zones. Because in many cities, they have, let's say, a small airport, helipad, then you have a radius around that's restricted. And if there is electrical cables, it's restricted. So a lot of those no-fly zones. So then you look at the city, but then half the city is no-fly zone. So in my plan, there's also a way to overcome this. My idea.
Teleportation.
In a way.
Okay. It's interesting.
I'm sitting on this idea. I was actually discussing it with few people from the industry in Israel. I even took the chance of telling them the whole thing. And then the people told me, yes, it's good, but unless you do it yourself, you can talk to as many people as you want. Eventually, one of them will take the idea and adopt it.
Have you patented?
I'm not sure it's patentable.
Then have you trademarked it at least? No. I done nothing yet. I actually considering either I do this, but then I have to do it 110%, 120% of my life, or I find a company that already is in the drone space, the drone delivery space, and
there are several of those in Israel and even here in the Gulf. I found an Omani company called UVL Robotics. I was at their booth in Jitex.
So you're serious about this then?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm serious,
you're serious.
But I didn't.
You haven't pulled the trigger yet.
I did. Maybe I can get a company that is already doing it and make them my design partner. Basically, do a partnership with them, like opening subsidiary. We're both equal partners. Then I don't mind if they steal my idea because we're partners. They steal my idea. They will implement them through
Any of a
our
contract,
joint
so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
vehicle for that matter, and then we both profit. So I think that's, if it's possible to do it this way, then I don't need to spend 120% of my life doing this. I know it's like being very spoiled, because usually if you want a startup to succeed, you need to, it's like, it's hard. It's supposed to be hard, right? Let's think about origins of things. News. You mentioned Alba. So I stumbled across, I think it was a year ago, something. A friend of mine told me, but I kind of stumbled upon this. A tender that they're doing. And they wanted to install solar panels on top of the factory itself and the cafeteria and the parking lots and whatever. And start producing electricity. Now, obviously, you won't be able to support it's not going to be a circular economy. You're not going to be able to support the smelter from the solar panels, right? But it's nice for UN PR and you're going to lower a bit, the carbon footprint, whatever. A bit, it's nice. But just saying that this was very, so basically only people who are interested in, I don't know, in solar, if somebody is looking for a tender, he would come across this. But maybe, I'm not sure if you want to focus.
Sure,
but
whatever.
That's like a regional news that doesn't interest CNN, but it might be interest regionally,
Sure.
I would be interested to know,
Sure.
Or another sort of, for example, Bahrain.
Saudi's building a new aluminium company, for example.
A new aluminium company. But do they have the aluminium ore on the ground?
Bahrain doesn't have an aluminium ore in the ground.
Oh.
They're building a smelter with a US company. I'm not sure if it's finished or not, but it's meant to be the biggest aluminium company.
The aluminium doesn't come from the soil in Bahrain?
No.
Oh, they
imported.
I thought it's like locally. Oh.
No. It comes from Australia, Africa, and there's a few other places that are huge mines.
Oh. Actually, I should have thought about it. Bahrain is kind of small. You're going to cook the ground. Eventually, it's going to be... Okay, so they bring it from outside.
Alumini, yeah. It's called alumini, and they then smelt it, which then turns into aluminium.
With Bahrain, which is with the energy sector in Bahrain, which is the gas and oil field. I'm not sure what is the name. There's a name for that field. But the newly discovered one, the big one, the 80 trillion, not trillion. Well,
You wish.
Wish it was trillion, but billion, still good. 80 billion barrels or something, which is a lot of money, right? But it's geologically, it's underwater. I heard that
It's difficult
drilling
to get
is
at.
going to be, they're only going to tap into a small percent of that entire. But with today's technology, maybe with tomorrow's technology, you can tap into greater percents. Shell oil is something that wasn't available 20 years plus ago, right?
Yeah.
It was
Unheard of.
It was supposed to be, and then it was invented because people thought, wait, there's money there. So how do we? So what I'm saying is, and I know that international companies are aware. I mean, obviously Bahrain consulted, and Chevron is here. And anyways, I'm just saying that if you bring this up, the subject of this oil field, that the oil barrels that are trapped there, I know it's not very green, but all the world is digging for gas and oil. So basically, you can do carbon capture. It's okay. You offset it, carbon capture later, but bring out the oil. So if you just talk about it, maybe you'll bring a company to a startup to figure out a way, innovative way, how to drill, how to extract, how to do
a bidding process.
Yeah,
right.
but
And the winner gets, let's say, $1 million of the ideas is functional.
Incentivize them to bring new
Concepts.
technologies. So basically, I brought it up as something that it relates to finance, obviously, because if you tap into that field and you increase, instead of 5% that I heard that they think they can extract, increase it to 25% or 30 or 50, I don't know. It's huge amounts of money. It's like billions of dollars. So it's worthwhile, right? It's worth the $1 million prize, whatever,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
But you need to have a discourse around this. So basically, I'm just saying that as a subject for a financial show about the region, this is...
I like how you roped that back in. I love that.
You can do a show, you can invite me to talk... Never mind. You don't need to invite me. But I'm just saying that...
No, definitely.
No. I mean, I'm trying to...
Hey, if I can do my part to bring peace to the Middle East, you don't think I want that?
or bring money, at least bring money to the Middle East.
Exactly.
You
Hey,
know,
we talked
it's
about this
also-
earlier. What can we do to strengthen connections?
Yeah, okay. So I went and then I discussed Egypt. And then I started discussing a lot of stuff. Let's don't rediscuss them. I'm just saying, we had a peace agreement with Egypt. At the beginning, it was like a honeymoon. And in 79, after they signed, Sadat came to visit Israel maybe 5 or 6 times. Not just to sign, because signature was in Washington. He came to visit Haifa on his yacht. And they were doing cocktails, and they opened an Israeli academic center in Cairo. And they invited intellectuals and writers, and that anti-normalization movement back then in Egypt didn't exist because the president wanted this to work.
It
They
came chopped on them.
realized this is priority. This is what the leader wants. They went along with it. When Sadat was assassinated and Mubarak, stepped into his shoes, and for some reason, maybe it has something to do with the war in Lebanon. I'm not sure. Maybe. But for some reason, the decision was, okay, let's just do what we signed in Washington, and that's it. Not going to do any of the extras. No visits, no academic centers, no even the direct flights that were supposed to be part of, and there were direct flights until the 2011 or 2012. There was a few years that there were no direct flights. But anyways, even them, they decided we're going to create this paper airline called Air Sinai, so that no one will look at the
Flight history.
The flight. There were no flight radars apps then, but the scheduled flights
Sure.
booklet of Egypt Air and see a flight to Tel Aviv, right? So what I'm saying is the peace itself kept as a alliance between governments. There was coordination between the military, the intelligence, and that continues until today. But everything to do with civil society went into deep freeze. Now, there were a few exceptions, especially those that related to the economic benefits that the US guaranteed Egypt.
Sure.
So they had those things called qualified economic zones. industrial zones, qualified industrial zones, meaning that like a free zone where Israeli companies can join Egyptian companies and they can create a product that has a certain percent of the product is made in Egypt. It was also on Egypt's soil.
Sure.
And 5% or something, at least 5% Israeli made, usually the packaging or whatever, and they sell it to the US custom free. Yeah. So that was kept. So that was those exceptions of civilian, but now they kept the agreement to the letter, okay? If the peace agreement said tourism, yes, tourism. There was tourism, but no visa exemption. So you want a visa? Fine, you wait a month. You go back 4 or 5 times to get a visa to Egypt. I mean, the other way around, the Egyptian authorities, they didn't. In theory, Egyptians could go and visit Israel. Handful of them did, like intellectuals. But if you're an ordinary Egyptian, you want a visa to Israel? First of all,
hey, I'd love to go. Invite me. I'll come.
They'll investigate you for a week. Why are you looking to go to Israel?
Sure. But Israel would also investigate those intellectuals who are coming.
They were welcome. They were welcome because it was good PR. But ordinary Egyptians were, by their own government, they were,
looking for bad actors and whatnot. Yeah, of course. Spies and stuff.
The message was, we don't want you to normalize. So we called it cold peace. Now, this cold peace is now warming a little bit because there are now Egypt Air flights. No paper airline, Air Sinai doesn't fly anymore. It's Egypt Air. It's on their schedules. It's on their website. Just recently, from last year.
So is there a flight from Bahrain to Israel at the moment?
You mean
directly?
Gulf Air.
Gulf Air?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
3 times a week. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I've never visited Israel, so I don't know.
You should go.
You're talking to me. I know about as much about Israel as I know about Thailand, which is literally zero.
Wow, I haven't been to Thailand, by the way.
Exactly.
I need to.
I've never been to Thailand either. That's why I said that.
A lot of Israelis go to Thailand through Bahrain, and I know because I'm in this Facebook group. Which is called Bahrain for the Israeli tourist. And a lot of those questions there, posts are, I'm traveling, I have a stopover of, 12 hours, 17 hours in Bahrain. Should I go out? Should I do something? So first of all, sometimes I reply and I say, when is the stopover? Is it in the morning? Is it during the night? So sometimes I tell them, no, don't go out. Because first of all,
what are you going to see?
Yeah, you have, sometimes it varies, the amount of time, but you're gonna walk out of the airport, travel to Manama city center, let's say the Bab el Bahrain, right? 50 degrees.
In summer, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna sweat your life, and then you're back for another 7 hours flight to Bangkok. No, don't do it. Stay in the air conditioning. If you want to come to Bahrain, come or do a real stopover, like 3 days, 4 days, so you can shower.
You can see a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So, but a lot of those people are like low-cost budget travelers. So they say, we are passing through this new country. They are curious, they want to see. But I just think logistically, it's a nightmare.
Of course.
To do it like that. If it's in the middle of the night, no, what are you going to come to the Bab el Bahrain in the middle of the night? Everything's closed, right?
So what's better then, from an Israeli perspective? Dubai has a lot more interaction, things to do as a tourist than Bahrain does.
Yeah.
You were given a choice. You'd probably want to live in Dubai more than you'd love to live in Bahrain.
I chose Bahrain.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Or just because of slower lifestyle?
Well, maybe. Not just because there's several reasons. First of all, because I knew people here.
Okay.
I had friends here. So that's one thing. Dubai is it's very hectic. It's like very first of all, Dubai is it's very big. Like we're talking about city or an emirate. It's very big.
Sure.
I also considered Abu Dhabi, by the way, because I started about 2 years ago thinking about setting up a VC fund. And for that, I figured Abu Dhabi is the place. Because, because of those sovereign wealth funds and...
Sure, that or Riyadh, but it's very hard to get in Riyadh. Yeah.
Right. So, but then the reason I chose Bahrain, not just because personal reason, business-wise, is two things. First of all, there's talent here, and there's less talent. I mean, in numbers, not just in. I'm not talking about quality. I mean, I'm not saying that Emiratis are less talented. I'm just saying that there are less talented Emiratis looking for work in the UAE than in Bahrain.
Okay.
I mean, than in Bahrainis, talented Bahrainis.
Sure. This feels like a script.
It does? In a good way?
Yeah, in a good way. This feels like a little bit of a script because I hear that a lot from people who are on the show. They always compliment about Bahraini level of skill.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why.
So, and there is this reputation that I heard of. I mean, I still haven't employed. Well, it's not true. I do employ one Bahraini, but she's also a very good friend, so I don't consider it actual employment. I knew her as a friend before I knew her as an employee, so I chose her because I knew her. I'm just saying that my plans are to hire a lot of Bahrainis. And like I'm talking hundreds, like maybe 1,000. But for what? To do what? So basically, because I don't have any. I'm not a startup. I'm not a scale up. I'm not. So the plan is, and this is one thing that I'm planning to do, I'm starting doing now actually, is using the difference in how do you call it? Cost of labor, the arbitrage in cost of labor between Israel and Bahrain in tech. In Israel, because of so many unicorns that raised billions of dollars, they have actually exhausted the pool of talent.
Sure.
They can't train them fast enough. There are some that are untrainable because of historic reasons, that people who simply, because of our educational system, which is not good.
Sure.
They simply don't have the English that they need in order to work in tech. And it's very hard to make someone in their 30s, 40s learn English
and then learn program. Yeah.
It's hard. It's simply so I'm just saying that there aren't enough. Now they are trying to increase the talent pool, but it will take years.
Do you not think that a joint venture between, let's say, Bahrain and Israel for scientific research, for example, could be a good source of building better knots together? That's what the EU does.
I think they signed an MOU about that, and I think they're doing it through, I believe it was, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it was Sheba Medical Center.
Oh, well, sure, it could be medical, it could be engineering, it could be whatever.
So it will be 2-3 researchers.
That's my problem, right? What I'm saying is that you really need to
I'm
build.
I'm talking about hundreds, or if not 1,000.
That's what I'm saying. But
in the first round, let's say.
Of course, but what I'm trying to insinuate is that you need to have, in order to build strong connections, you need to have both Israelis coming and working in Bahrain, and Bahrainis also coming to work in Israel, right? That's the only way in order to build that lasting relationship.
And then the first time they work for each other, let's say an Israeli company hires Bahrainis for software development, QA. I also think sales and marketing, because some of them will want to operate sales and marketing centers here to sell to the Gulf.
Sure.
So basically, that's the other reason Bahrain is a good option, because it's more cost effective.
Sure.
to run a business from here than to run a business from Dubai.
Sure.
And the market being the same. The market can still be the UAE, or the market can still be Saudi, or the GCC in general.
Sure.
So more cost effective, more talent to, by the way, those two goes together, because if you have more talent, the cost of labor is lessened. So basically, this constellation where in Israel, we are desperately searching for talent. We're searching it in Eastern Europe, in Portugal, in the Philippines. Now, I'm just saying, why not search it? First of all, it's
Regional.
closer to home. Yeah, it's closer. Let's say
Closer to home, yeah.
Time zones. Most of the year is the same hour, and it also strengthens the relationship. And we want to strengthen the relationship with countries that we share the same. Let's say, I think Israel and Bahrain share strategic view of the region. They both looking for stability. They want to reject hostilities, like countries who do subversive activities through proxies like Hezbollah, and so both countries are looking for stability, and they signed a bunch of defense agreements.
Sure.
So why not also reap the benefits of other areas, like those civilian areas, not just defense, and not just
R&D,
intelligence.
Yeah.
So the way I see it, it's an impact agenda. Like I would, it's like using the phrase "killing two birds with the same stroke," right? You also help the Israeli tech ecosystem because they're in dire need of talent, and you give them good talent, not something that is, they are
It's half asleep. Yeah.
Yeah, you give them people who are educated in good universities, and they have perfect English. Most of Bahrainis have. I'm talking about Bahraini nationals, not just level of English in terms of, the grammar. I'm talking also that you can understand what they say, because a big part of the problem with outsourcing to India, for example, it's sometimes it's very hard to understand what the
Language
person says.
barrier. Yeah.
Yeah, he speaks English. He speaks it grammatically right, but the accent is a problem. So in Bahrain, you don't have that problem. You have a proper English, like British English accent.
But do you not feel that in order to strengthen, like if I was like, for example, if you gave me this exact portfolio and you said, hey, you know what, Hamid, we have these issues and we want to build a stronger networking ability between the two of them, I would say, okay, let's look at infrastructure. Let's make sure that ships are coming in and out and there's a lot of connections there. Then I would say, let's look at internet lines that can go back and forth, right? Then I would say, listen, let's look at building institutions, whether it be research laboratories, whether it be universities, and then make sure that a quota goes back and forth.
All of that, by the way.
And then
all of
businesses
those things,
would be, yeah.
First of all, there are some things in infrastructure level that are government to government.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know what it means, but in order to establish, let's say, a scheduled shipping line, between Haifa and Manama, I assume it's government level.
Sure.
Or something like that. By the way, there isn't a project or suggestion that was brought up during the Bibi government, the last one, about a rail line connection from the Gulf. It could be Dubai, it could be Bahrain, it could be both, through Saudi, through Jordan, going into Israel, and also branching into the West Bank, to Jenin. So basically, and to Haifa. Now, this line, it's a geopolitical change, because it's first of all, it's a little bit of a competition to the Suez Canal. But it also became more, let's say, the idea became relevant because of the civil war in Syria. Because a lot of products used to come to the Gulf through Turkey and Syria. And then, because of the civil war, it ended. And we started actually getting those products from Turkey through Haifa to the border to Jordan, and then on trucks. And it still goes today, on trucks from Jordan, like through Israel, then Jordan, Saudi, and the Gulf. Of course, a lot of comes by air, but some of the things are not coming by air.
Sure.
So why use trucks? Trucks are expensive. They are slow.
Lot of labor.
It's also risky. They have accidents. I don't know what. A rail line is much more logistically
And efficient.
Yes. So they have this idea, and I think that behind the scenes, they are doing some things to, for example, we on our side, we are building an extension of the railroad to reach up to the Jordanian border. We have a gap. Once we reach the Jordanian border, they need to, basically they have an infrastructure
Issues.
that the Ottomans, they have the infrastructure ready already, because the Ottomans left them with the railway that they deliver today only phosphates. They use it for phosphates, but it runs almost till Saudi, in Jordan. They can use it for cargo, and then in Saudi you need to build it. It's okay, they have money, they can build it. And in the UAE, they just completed their national railway. So, but you need an extension to Bahrain. What I'm saying is that this is a regional project, right? No one country can do it alone, and everyone needs to want it. And
Absolutely.
But it's already
in the process.
It's in the process. Let's say it will help if we'll have normalization with Saudi, but it can also happen without normalization with Saudi, because Saudi deals with Jordan, deals with the Gulf states. It doesn't need Israel.
I think MBS has talked about normalization of with relations. Both. I mean, he himself said with Iran and Yemen. So I think Israel was included in this list. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing with,
well, let me ask you this direct question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, where do you stand on the two states situation with Israel? Because from my opinion, it should be just one state and khalas. And I don't care what you call it.
Oh.
That's for me.
No, that's going to be a bloodbath.
You think so?
Yeah, it's going to be Syria.
Because I don't care what it's called. I just...
No, it's not about what it's called. It's about that if you... First of all, let's say, it's not a matter of... You have to remember, it's not a matter of just that. One state, two states. What do you do with the 5 million Palestinians who are, and I'm saying it like this because of a reason, that are registered with UNRWA as refugees? 5 million, 5.5, 6, I don't know. What are you going to do with them?
Can't you just make everyone just Israeli and be done? Or everyone,
So you're
whatever?
talking about adding 5.5 million people to that stretch of land.
Wait, are those 5 million people where right now?
They are all over the place. Some of them are in the US. Some of them are in Chile. Some of them are in here. Some of them are in Lebanon, right? The Palestinian refugees everywhere.
Sure, but what if you just then say like a cap per year of saying whatever, 100,000 a year, for example?
There was discussion about this, but...
I think that's the only way forward, yeah.
First of all, why do you need to bring them? First of all, as I mentioned, they are registered as refugees. They are not refugees. They have jobs. Some of them maybe doesn't even want to go back. But basically, it's like I would say to you, there are tensions between Pakistan and India. Let's to lessen the tensions. Let's bring back 15 millions of Pakistanis that left India in 1947, and let's bring back 15 million Indians. Let's swap. And
Sure, but if you came to me and said, Ahmed, do you think that, I don't know, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh should unify? I would tell you, sure, why not? If you would come to me and tell me Europe, should they unify? I'd sure say, why not? Who cares?
Yeah, but
You know what I mean?
but that's the thing. It's not a neutral. It's not people who want to live together. It's people who hate. You have to understand.
Yeah, but you have to get rid of that hate somehow, right? You can't.
But you're not gonna get rid of it by putting them in a pressure cooker.
Sure, but I think that
It's not gonna
solve the issue. But I think that the more you I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an expert in geopolitical landscape of that region.
The thing is, I'll tell you what. A solution that might have been okay 75 years ago, like 47, or that might be okay in 100 years from now. We're talking about one state, okay. Let's call it EU or United States of Palestine or
Whatever you want.
Confederacy, doesn't matter. There's so many suggestions of how to make this work. The obstacle, the stumbling block for it is that at least one of the parties don't want it. They view it as a means to an end. It's a trick. It's a Trojan horse. We're gonna say we want this. That's the fear. I'm telling you the fear of Israelis.
Sure.
They're gonna say yes, one state, let's live all together happily ever after. Let's bring just 5 million people in, and now we're the majority. Now we have weapons. Now we're gonna attack you. Now go away.
So do you not think that if you do a joint unification and then say to the 5 million, hey, you know what? Tough luck. Hypothetically.
So they say
hypothetically.
no peace.
But
so we continue the war.
Do you think that would cause no peace if Israel and Palestine right now, whatever the area called, just make one unified, I don't know, states of Israel, have it as whatever you want to call it, and then for the 5 million that lives outside, just say, you know what, tough luck.
But then there's no peace.
But
for them,
sure.
If you ask them, the Palestinians, I mean, now, okay, you can literally ask them. There's a YouTube channel by a guy called Corey Gil Schuster. It's called the Ask Project. That's the name of the channel. Now he's, for the last 5 years or 6 years, collecting questions online, taking an interpreter with him, going to the West Bank, not to Gaza, because he can't go to Gaza, but going to the West Bank, also to Israel, like, depends. He asks either Palestinians the questions or Israelis, like, usually not the same questions. Sometimes the same questions. And he asks, what does it take for you to have peace? Now you can look at the answers. So first of all, some of the answers are, how to have peace? Very simple. The Israelis need to go out. Then we'll have peace. Because there won't be any Israelis. So amongst us, we have peace. So first of all, there's...
But the other side exists as well.
Yeah, but the percentages... but the percentages are much lower.
Okay.
Most of Israelis don't have an obsession with kicking out Palestinians. It's a very loony minority and...
because those are the most vocal. That's the ones that you hear a lot from.
Maybe they are vocal because there are channels who give them more... because look, they're saying this. So,
yeah, it's self-fulfilling prophecy, you mean?
Yeah, but if you look at the political landscape in Israel, those who... Nobody talks... There used to be a party, a right-wing party. It was called Moledet, meaning homeland. It was in the 1980s, and they advocated as a solution to the problem. They advocated transfer. Now, it was a Jewish party. The guy said, his name was Rechavam Ze'evi, he was a general in the army, but then he went into politics. His nickname, everyone in Israel in the army gets a nickname.
Sure.
His nickname was Gandhi.
Nice.
It was kind of
He liked having sex with 12-year-olds. Gandhi,
do that?
yeah, Gandhi was.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
he's
That's
pretty
an
wild.
interesting, okay, wow.
Yeah, he wasn't the greatest.
Okay, I didn't know that, but
Yeah.
that wasn't the reason he was called Gandhi. It was like,
Sorry.
Gandhi was very, peaceful, and he was like kind of hawkish. I think that was the reason. Anyways, so he had a solution to the problem. He said, let's pay the Palestinians to move away. We'll just
Okay.
give them money, and they'll move away, and then there won't be any conflict because there will only be one people here, and that's it. And people would say, but you're racist. He said, no, I'm not doing it because I have anything against them. I simply don't want a clash. So if there's only one people, there's no clash, right? Because there's no one to clash with, right? And he gave us an example. Back then, he used to give as an example the agreement between Turkey and Greece.
Sure.
At the end of after the World War, the First World War ended, there was another war, I think, between the
Greece. It was Turkey versus not Greece. It was what are they called, Danny? No, Turkey.
That was in the 20s.
Turkey had a No. Turkey had a war not with Greece. There was another country that also speaks Greek. I forgot the name of it. Not Armenia. Look up the world map from Greece, and it'll show up the
There
country.
was the Armenian genocide, but I don't think it's the same one.
Istanbul. No. Cyprus.
Oh, okay. No,
Yeah,
there
yeah,
is
yeah.
this. No, it's not what I'm talking about. There was a clash between Turkey and Greece, and they reached an agreement. I think maybe the agreement was under the patronage of the winners of the First World War, or something like that.
Sure.
The agreement said there were Greeks on the Turkish side of the Aegean Sea, the Sea of Marmaris. So if you think about today, what is Turkey, there were Greeks there, a lot. And the other way around. They were mixed.
For 500 years, Greece was under the Arab rulership or Muslim rulership almost.
Yeah, but also, in ancient times, not just the Turkish side was also part of Greek. Anyways, it was a mix of populations.
Sure.
Sometimes same village. This house was Greek, this was Turk, and they hated each other. They didn't hate each other before, but something happened and they started hating each other.
Well, yeah, like Protestant and Catholic in Ireland.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was the solution? They said transfer. Let's transfer the populations.
Okay.
And they did. They agreed. And about 1 million Greeks or 1.5 million Greeks returned to the left side or like the west side. And then 1 million Turks went to the east side. And then they still hate each other, but they're far away, right?
So give me okay.
So wait a second. So this guy's solution was transfer. Now you think about it as something. Oh my God, it's so.
I don't have a
I'm just saying
particular
not you,
opinion.
not
Yeah.
you. But some people might say, "Oh my God, it's a racist solution." I'm not for that solution. I'm just saying, but that's the solution that most Palestinians. If you go and you see that guy asks questions on the streets of Ramallah, most of the Palestinians, that's their solution today. Just the opposite. What's the solution to the conflict? Transfer the Israelis to Europe, back. Go back. Doesn't matter that most Israelis today, more than 60%, are not from Europe. Most of the Israelis today are from Arab countries.
Sure.
Like I mentioned,
Iran,
Yemen,
sure.
but Egypt. I'm, let's say, from my mother's side. Okay, it's not a really good example because my father was passing through Syria for a few years, but he was from Aleppo. Let's say, okay, the story goes. I'll just in a nutshell.
Would you like some pizza, by the way? I'm going to order some pizza.
Okay, we can order. I mean, is it that late?
No, but I'm hungry.
Go ahead.
Danny, can you pass me my phone because I'm kind of hungry. I haven't eaten all day.
Me too. I only had the banana and the chocolate that I bought because I skipped lunch.
Yeah.
Oh.
Any particular pizza you
Whatever
like?
you. Yeah,
Domino's,
it's okay.
Pizza Hut,
Yeah,
anything?
anything goes.
All right, Danny's just getting the phone. No, but yeah, okay. So, your dad stayed in Syria for a little bit.
I recap. Okay. From my mother's side, my late mother's side, her father, my grandfather, he came in the beginning of the 20th century after the Soviets took over the Russia, right? After it became communist. He ran from Bukhara. He was in today Uzbekistan, Bukhara. He ran out with the family fortune, which amounted to nothing because it was all cancelled. All the money was cancelled.
Okay.
So it was worth nothing.
That happens more often than you'd like to think, sadly.
Yeah, it's like what we discussed with the what will happen to the Bitcoin one day. Anyways, so but he first of all he escaped to Aleppo.
Okay.
Why? First of all, it was in the middle between Israel and Bukhara, but because his grandfather was originally from Aleppo, so he wasn't or his father, I'm not sure, but the family didn't originate in Bukhara. He was originally from Aleppo. He was a rabbi. He was invited to Bukhara because they didn't have a rabbi there. So he relocated. And then there was the communist revolution. And then the son escaped where? First of all, to the place he knew he's from. He's from Aleppo.
Okay.
So he went to Aleppo. Then he said, okay, but I don't want to stay in Aleppo. I'll go to Palestine, which was, starting to have a growing Jewish community.
Sure.
So he went there, and then he spent he met my grandmother there. They married. My aunt, like my mother's elder sister, was born in Alexandria. Because he was a merchant. He lost the family fortune, but he still needed to do some new fortune, right?
Of course.
Okay, so where? So they went to Alexandria. So they lived in Alexandria. My aunt was born in Alexandria. But my mother was born in Jerusalem a few years later. So I'm just saying that, so from that side of the family, I am from Syrian roots. I trust what you order.
Okay, I ordered barbecue chicken.
Okay, inside the pizza?
Yeah, it's chicken barbecue pizza. Have you ever had it?
No, but I'm willing to
You
try.
trying?
Yeah.
You're willing to try?
Take the risk.
It's very American. Danny, order what you like. But listen, I don't have an issue with anyone living anywhere. I mean, for my concern
No, I'm just saying that when you hear this a lot, they should return to Europe. No, they're not from Europe. More of them are from Syria, Egypt, Iraq.
Sure.
Right?
But what happens 100 years from now?
To who and what do you mean?
Because I'm looking at it from a larger perspective, right? The same issue that Europe is having with a shrinking population. Right. It's happening to every country, first world country.
We are not shrinking.
In due time.
We have a birth rate that is higher than the birth rate of the Palestinians.
Yes, for now. But what happens as you perfectly explained, or earlier off the camera explained, right? Yeah. As income increases, as inflation, the people who don't earn the $70,000, $80,000 are not going to be having 6 or 7 kids because they can't afford to maintain that.
You'll be surprised.
Sure.
The ones who are poorest have the most children.
Yes, that's normal.
The Orthodox Jews.
Sure.
The ones who live in small apartments, like 10 people in one apartment, because they give birth to 8 children, maybe more, maybe 10 children.
Okay.
Now, how can they reconcile that they're so poor and they have so many children?
But this is well documented that in places like Africa and stuff like that.
No, but it's not because it's unplanned parenthood. It is planned parenthood.
I'm not saying it's not unplanned parenthood. What I'm insinuating is that you're stuck in a situation where as income increases, population decreases.
Yeah, but we mixed two questions. What does it have to do with anything else than the economic situation?
I'm just saying in 100 years' time, you don't want to be still stuck in the same situation of a two-state system. What about 300 years in a time? What about 400 years in a time?
No, there is no two-state system. At the moment, the situation is that there's one state, Israel.
Sure.
And on adjacent land,
sure,
there is a Palestinian autonomous region
Okay.
that has some sovereign authority,
Okay.
some sovereign rule, and some not. So, I mean, some of the, let's say, what makes an entity a state?
Okay.
Okay, so you would say under international law there's a definition, but it has to have a constant. It has to have territory. It has to have government. It has to have a constant population. They call it, like constant meaning no nomads just traveling around. You know. And that's enough for some entity to be called a state. And another criteria is recognition by other state as a state. Now, the Palestinian Authority, who calls itself State of Palestine, they proclaimed the State of Palestine in Algiers in 1989.
Danny, pick up this phone call. Somebody on it. I don't know what they want.
There is a Palestinian embassy, I think, in Manama. There's a Palestinian embassy for sure in Abu Dhabi.
Sure.
They are an observer state in the UN. They call themselves a state, right? They say they're a state. So here you go. You have two states.
Okay. So
What don't they have? They don't have army. Why do they need army?
Okay. So
Are they under attack?
So your insinuation on this, but I'm trying to understand it. I'm honestly trying.
No, it's fine. If I sound feisty, it's because when I talk about those things, I usually am a little bit feisty. It's nothing like I'm not angry.
No, I understand. I'm literally trying to understand it.
It's just my way to explain.
Because when I try to look at things, I try to look at it without any kind of emotion or prejudice. I just try to look at an issue. I mean, for me, you can change Israel name and Palestine name to England and France. It doesn't change.
But that won't solve the issue.
No, I'm not. No. I'm saying you can call it whatever you want. The two things. My brain doesn't look at it from a perspective of emotion or relevancy. Yeah. I just try to look at things like an engineer. You know what I mean?
Right. But think about this. Think about, okay, you want to be an engineer? Okay, be a chemist for a second. Okay. Oil and water, right? Mm-hmm. They don't mix.
You don't think that
they don't mix if they I mean you think in terms that if you're going to create a structure, a theoretical structure, a legal structure called, like, let's say Gaddafi suggested, Isratin, okay? It doesn't matter the name, okay? Doesn't really matter the name. But if you create this structure, everyone will erase, like in that movie, how is it called? Where the guy... never mind, I don't remember.
Okay, I get where you're coming from.
The history will be erased. Everyone's emotions will be erased. Now they'll be happy because they have a state, which is not called the way they wanted, but never mind. And then everything will be, it will be like a fresh start. No, things don't work that way.
You don't.
When in the world did it work this way?
You don't think? Well, it worked very well with the UK, right? I mean, the UK somehow managed to balance the Protestants and the Catholics and the Muslims and the Christians and Jews and every kind.
The UK still controls Northern Ireland. And the part of Northern Ireland is not controlled by the Catholics.
Sure, except that Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland now wants to reunify. Because it's to me, like, listen, I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
No, I'm saying maybe in 100 years there would be a... Okay, what I'm saying is that the levels of hate and the levels of the different goals, okay, of those two ethnic groups, and specifically I'm saying ethnic groups, not about religious.
Sure.
There are also Christian Palestinians, right? And so it's not religion. There are also Christian Palestinians who want us to disappear, not because of Islam.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there then Israeli Christians as well, or they're not that much?
Yeah, because they came maybe with mixed
Because
marriages.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Let's say
If
could be.
if you're talking about it from a separation of a religious construct, then I think regardless how you look at these things, I always think of it when you take religion out of it, people are more similar than different. Right? It's to me it's crazy to hate somebody because of their.
You're right, but you're the sane one. But you have to understand that in a conflict, people don't think we are similar. No Palestinian will say, I'm similar to the Zionists. Yes, I am similar. No, they don't think that they're similar.
Do you not think that when this is the group, you remember we had this conversation I think earlier that this is the same problem that America faces inside of America, and that they define themselves be them by race or by gender. Like if an American comes to Europe or to Israel, they're just American. They don't go around being like, that's Black American, that's Italian American. You know what I mean?
When they present themselves, you mean, or in?
So for inside of America,
right?
They break themselves up into smaller groups: Italian American, Black American, Irish American. But when they're outside of America, they're just American. You know what I mean? Nobody like looks at American and goes, "Oh, he's a Spanish American or Italian American or whatever."
Yeah, but first of all, it's common that.
Do you get what I mean?
yeah, but first of all, you recognize that within America, they don't have this perfect solidarity.
I'm not saying that they do.
They're basically a lot of times in each other's throats.
Sure.
Like if you look at what happened with the Black Lives Matter after what happened to the poor guy that was choked, right? With the knee, right? What was his name?
Danny, do you remember? George Floyd.
Right, that guy. Now what happens with Kanye West? That guy's family sues Kanye West because Kanye West said, and he's black, right? But he said, no, he wasn't killed because of the strangulation with the knee. He was killed because he was drugged. Now they're suing Kanye West for $250 million.
That's what the original autopsy report, by the way, said before it was changed. Honestly to God, it said that it was drugs that killed him.
Okay.
That's scary. It's crazy. I know.
So who was that pathologist? Who is he? He's a white racist. Never mind. White supremacist. But I'm saying there's no solidarity in America along let's say ethnic lines. Okay, there are still tensions between the blacks and the white and the Native Americans
but this is a new thing.
And the Mexicans and I don't know. I think it changed a bit, but there still goes back. I mean, if you think about it, the blacks, even depends where, but in the South, okay, until the 60s, there was segregation, right? Until Johnson did something with
Sure.
It was segregated. It was like South Africa. It was apartheid, basically.
It's interesting that you really bring this up because Thomas Sowell talks about this narrative.
Thomas? Who?
Thomas Sowell.
Okay.
He's a Black American author, economist, student of Milton Friedman. Grew up during some of the race riots that were going on, and he makes his intellectual curiosity and the way he describes how Southern America was completely different than the narrative that he get told today. Because remember, it wasn't the Democratic Party that was fighting
for emancipation.
It was the Republican Party, which in those states are all what?
and the Democrats were basically racist.
Exactly.
They were against.
They are right now even racist. I mean, it is racist to say to a university, you have to have dormitories that are just for black people.
a safe space just for blacks.
But that's my
meaning.
It's segregation.
The bus is safe. This bus is safe. Oh, sorry.
Sure.
It's just for blacks, so it's safer for you.
That's my point exactly, right?
No, it's what's going on in the U.S. with the. I want to say it's way beyond the point of political correctness. It's way beyond, because political correctness originally was just being nicer, okay? Just don't say the N-word say African American. Okay, just that. Now it became a nightmare. It became a nightmare where you mentioned cancel culture and like, I mean, after the George Floyd riots, right? They started demolishing those statues of Robert E. Lee.
Sure.
And but that's part of history. What are you gonna erase history? I mean, it's like in Egypt, in ancient Egypt, when this pharaoh that the other pharaoh didn't like, right? So he said, "No, you go now and you erase the, Hatshepsut, the Egyptian woman pharaoh. Yes, her name was erased from all, I don't know, hieroglyphs or whatever. I don't know how they found out about her. Maybe from something that survived. But
I agree.
Now, they want to erase. They say we don't want to respect that. We don't want to give an impression that we respect that person, Robert E. Lee. Okay. So I mean, so then George Washington, he was a slave owner. Let's erase him as well. Let's erase him from the dollar, or is he on the dollar, or from whatever
$1 bill?
Yes, let's erase him, and let's erase the Constitution because he wrote the Constitution. So let's erase everything. And basically, the left in the U.S. today reaches a point where they are willing to erase everything. Let's erase everything.
But this is my concern, right? I mean, this is what my concern is with what the future of Israel is going to look at the long term, right? I mean, we're sadly, I don't think I will live hundreds of years, so I don't think I'll
maybe
get
we
to
will with
technology. I really hope I do because I'd love to witness on how things change.
Cryogenics.
Absolutely. So I see that the identity of what Israel is, of whether or not it's the idea of converting from the idea of from identification of being Jewish into the identity of being Israeli. Do you know what I mean? That's a huge segmental mental shift, because when that occurs, then people who are not Jewish can also still be Israeli.
Then I have to. Okay, I understand what you're coming from, and it's ambiguous, but maybe I'll explain. I'll elaborate. Okay, I'm mansplaining now. Okay, we have a phrase in Israel that Israel is a Jewish and democratic state. Now, this phrase gives a lot of trouble because when you think about what does it mean to have a Jewish state? What does the state wakes up and prayers at the morning? Does the state keeps kosher? Doesn't eat pork? The state doesn't, right? So basically, we inherited this phrase from the partition plan, where they said we're going to partition Palestine, the mandate of Palestine, to two separate states: a Jewish state and an Arab state.
Sure.
But beforehand, and then we took this phrase, we used it in our Declaration of Independence because we referenced in our Declaration of Independence the partition plan.
Okay.
So we basically say,
your grandfather
the Jewish state that you were talking about in the General Assembly, in the UN, that you voted for, this is us. This is the way this phrase entered. But before, pre-Declaration of Independence, the Zionist movement didn't call itself a Jewish state. We said a Hebrew state. Okay, the ethnicity was being Hebrew. You can be religious, you can be non-religious, doesn't matter. You're ethnically Hebrew. You're ethnically belonging to the lineage that
of David, I think, right?
Leads to it could be David, it could be to the other, because David came from one tribe.
Yeah, there's
Benjamin,
two brothers, right? If you go all the way back.
No, if you go all the way back, you reach Adam and Eve, right?
Let's go a little further down from Adam and Eve, because the whole idea of what the differentiation between the Hebrew and the Arabs is that it comes from two brothers, Ishmael and Isaac,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So again, even if you look at it from a historic perspective, we are more similar than different. I will never understand the conflict in these things.
We are basically, as they say, cousins. Although there is a religious. Let's not try to. I mean, there is a.
But don't you feel
there is a discrepancy, because we say That's a fact. Okay, we meaning I'm not religious, but Jewish text, the Bible, the Jewish Bible, the Torah, says that Abraham was about to sacrifice Isaac.
Isaac, okay.
But
Gabe and Abel, I think it's in the Bible.
Cain and Abel were the sons of Adam and Eve. And Cain killed
the first,
Abel.
the first
one who
the
killed.
first murder, the first victim, or something like that.
Yes. But that was
further
long
back.
before. That was way before. So basically, in the Jewish scriptures, Abraham is about to sacrifice Isaac. In Islamic scriptures, he's about to sacrifice his brother Ishmael. So there is a discrepancy there. I'm not going to solve it. I don't know how to solve it.
It's
up to them, the rabbis and the imams to fight it off.
But don't you think it makes more sense to have it like in the U.S. where the state is above religion?
Oh no! Wait! I wasn't finished.
Yeah,
wait a second. So before the Declaration of Independence, the Zionist movement existed for 60 years before, 70 years. It started in the late 19th century, like 1870, something like that. So you had 70 years of Zionism thinking about Herzl, for example, Herzl, the one who we view him as the one who first imagined how would a Jewish state would work, right? Would operate. He wrote a book in German. He was Austrian, basically he was Hungarian. He was living in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So, but he was speaking German. So he wrote a book called The Judenstaat, translated as State of the Jews.
Yeah, City of the Stoods or something like that. Yeah.
No, Stat. State.
State. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
Maybe you're right. I think Stat is with a D. Maybe it's a city.
I don't know.
There is something there. Anyway, and this phrase was State of the Jews. It's different than Jewish state, because Jewish state implies that there are Jewish traits. There's something Jewish about this state. But he envisioned it as simply a state for the Jews, as a haven for the Jews, that the Jews can come to and take shelter in. Doesn't mean that they are all alone there. It doesn't mean that they are exclusive there, that there's no other one there. Now, in his book, he had another one, not that one, another one called Alteneuland, meaning...
I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, Alteneuland means in Yiddish, or German. It's very similar. So it means an old new country. By the way, Tel Aviv, the name of the city of Tel Aviv is derived from that book.
Oh, okay.
Because Tel, I think also in Arabic, refers to archaeological site. And Aviv means spring. Basically, something old and something new emanating from the old, something like that. So basically, the first book Herzl published about the Jewish state was a theoretical book. He outlined how a state should be formed, how do you raise money, how do you...
Sure.
All of those things, how do you create the state, okay?
Sure.
But the other one was a fiction. It was a novel about somebody going to visit that state once it's already there. And he described like the day-to-day life. And there were a few protagonists in that novella, let's say, because it's a very thin, book. It's not
I'll give it a
War
read.
and Peace.
Yeah, I'll give it a read.
Yeah. So he describes that this person, I don't remember the the name or whatever, but this person who visits, he meets with the Jewish, head of the community in a certain city, maybe Haifa. But then they go and they visit an Arab neighbor of that person, which is so basically he describes as an egalitarian society where Arabs and Jews, Christians and Muslims live in peace and harmony.
Sure.
No one is above anyone. Nobody is dictation to worship. Let's say you're not supposed to be religious or unreligious. Or religion doesn't have any role. And because Herzl wanted separation of church and state. We didn't practice it. We didn't
implement it,
but he wanted it. So basically, until creation of Israel, everybody thought that, and also after, it's not just until and then it changed. It didn't change. It's just that this phrase stuck, Jewish state. There's nothing that prevents today an Arab Israeli, meaning 48 Arab, right? Tamani Arab in basically some of them call themselves Palestinians, right? Nothing preventing them from being, and they are in the Supreme Court managing the biggest bank in Israel, Bank Leumi, is managed by an Arab Israeli, being he's the CEO, right? He's not the owner, but he was appointed CEO because of his merits, not because
his religious connections.
Yeah, because he is good at, and there are people who work for private sector,
sure,
for Google, that came from the Arab Christian minority or doesn't matter, Muslim. We have Bedouins, Arab Muslim Bedouins who serve in the military. So basically there's nothing in the state that is Jewish that prevents anyone else from practicing their religion or excelling, getting, let's say, there's no...
but the worry
you can't get a scholarship because you're not a Jew.
Okay.
No, there's nothing... So basically...
Nothing segregated to that extent.
There's nothing segregated in Israel.
In Israel.
Yeah. So basically, this...
So the worry more
this
is...
term, the Jewish state, it's not... There's nothing Jewish about the state. The only thing that is Jewish about the state is that we have the calendar marks the Rosh Hashanah. Yes, so it's a leave. Nobody works. Fine, but if you are a Muslim and you want
the Sabbath you're talking about.
No, Rosh Hashanah is like New Year. The
oh,
Jewish
okay,
New Year.
not the Sunday, the Sabbath.
The Sabbath is
still practiced.
It's a day off. It's not a bank day. Okay, no banks, no government offices work.
Are supermarkets open or?
Some, it depends if they're kosher or not.
Okay.
Because you have to understand, and not just there's not just regulation coming from law. There's also like demand.
Culture.
So if let's say for religious people, Jews who are practicing, their food has to be kosher. So it's not just the actual food. The place who sells the food can't sell it on Shabbat, on Saturday. So if they can't sell it, meaning the place has to be closed. So they close on Shabbat.
Okay.
They open after sunset on, when Saturday
starts.
Before they close just before and they open when Shabbat
ends
and becomes, the night between Saturday and Sunday is okay.
Okay.
It's already past Shabbat.
Okay.
Right? So it's from sundown till
sunset. Sunrise to sunset.
No.
Sunset? Okay.
Just sunset till, whatever. You got it. So what I'm saying is there's a mix of, there's some regulations that say, this is not a bank day. Okay, but it's normal. What? In Europe, in France, where it's separated, church and state, the banks work on Sunday? I don't think so.
In the UK, I think some banks work on Sunday, I think. But they're also
my website of my bank, which is Israeli, my two banks work on Saturday. I can log in and I can
do transfers.
I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm just saying that a lot of times I encounter the perception that the way Israel is today is not working because it's Jewish, and somehow people who are not Jewish suffer, but it's not true. They don't suffer from it. It doesn't restrict them or in any way as if they were. I mean, it doesn't give a Jew any advantage on them. The only thing that is different, it's not regarding the citizens of Israel.
But do you not think that the longer people refer to yourselves as Jew rather than Israeli,
Right.
that's going to be an issue, no?
So you're right. I have to say that I think that there is an Israeli nationality. Now, the passport is Israeli. And according to, you said an American that goes outside of America, doesn't matter if he's,
Black, white, whatever.
native,
He's just an American.
He's an American, right? Same as Israeli who goes to other country. And, Arab Israelis, so 48
Sure.
Arabs or Palestinians, were barred the same way from coming to Bahrain, from coming to UAE until we signed the Abraham Accords. Because they carry Israeli passport, so they're Israelis. Now, in practice, there is this nationality called Israeli. It's not an invention; it exists. When you have an ID, nobody knows what are you. Like there's no. There used to be, but they canceled it 15 years ago or something. There used to be like an ethnic clause inside the national ID, not the passport. They canceled it.
They have to, otherwise it's going to create issues down the line.
Yeah, but you know why it was there? Because the British, they left us. The British kept the Ottoman rules, most of them. They kept the Ottoman system. They changed what they thought they should change. But what they didn't touch the laws that relate to marriage, divorce, death, and all of those the laws that govern that are governed by religious sects.
Okay, I think I totally understand. I think where the issue between our understanding comes from, at least from my perspective, because when I think of Israel, I think of it as being like London, New York, Paris, wanting to be a hub of trade, a hub of innovation. That's in my head. Yeah. But I never considered that maybe Israel wants to be like Vatican, right?
Like what? Like who?
Like the Vatican.
Oh no.
Do you know what I mean?
No, we don't.
Okay. You just said
there are some people, a minority, and you can find a silly.
Sure, it's fine. You can
find a weird minority in every country, right? I'm not saying that we don't have people who look and think, oh, we can turn back time, we can go back to 3,000 years ago, and like we had, we'll have the monarchy back. Yes, there are those people. Yes, few loonies, but nothing that is, present in the political.
Solomon, I think, was the last king, I guess.
No, we had many more than Solomon was the third king,
and
the first one was Saul.
Yeah.
Then David became king, and then Solomon.
Solomon is the most famous one, I think, right?
Well,
for the world, I guess, not maybe for practicing Hebrew.
Suleiman, okay,
Yeah.
but he was famous because he was. It was claimed that he was the smartest man alive, right?
But
he met with Queen of Sheba.
Yeah.
With the bee. The story goes, right?
Yeah.
That she tested him. She said, I heard that you're so smart. I brought a bunch of flowers. Really a lot of flowers. Most of them are fake, but one of them is real. Who is the real one? A room full of flowers. Now, you go. So the text says he spotted a bee. So where is the bee going to go? To the fake flower or the real flower, right?
Yeah.
You have to be really smart to figure that out. But he did. He did.
But
So that's Solomon. But,
isn't there something in the Solomon that God was upset with him or something and took away something? I don't know I will admit to you I haven't read my Torah as well as I should have.
He really liked Solomon. No, God liked Solomon.
Can you look it up then?
David was the one that God was pissed off with because David did a nasty thing. What David did was he saw a woman in Jerusalem called Bathsheba. He saw her from his window bathing.
Yeah.
Oh, Solomon turns away from God. Oh my God.
Yeah, can you go one back? This is a good news translation. I don't know what that means. But what does it say here? What was Solomon's sin to God? Something about that. Maybe it's just in the Bible and not in the
Maybe
Hebrew.
he did, and I don't remember.
Listen, I'm not an expert in Torah either.
But in terms of committing sins, David was a larger sinner than
Solomon.
The son, because what David did was, so he watched from his palace a woman bathing on the rooftop of one of the houses. So he sent his aides to see who is that woman. They told him, she's the wife of one of your generals. Uriah, I think that's the name of the general. So he summoned her and he made love to her. He had sex with her. And then, but her husband was in the front. He was, or I'm not sure if there was a war, but he was, let's say,
upset,
in command. No, her husband didn't know at that point. I mean, okay, think about that. He was the king. He was the commander-in-chief of the army, right? Now, you have a general in your army. That's his wife. He's in the front somewhere, fighting, and you're messing with his wife, right? So that was the story. Now, God knew that, obviously, and he sent one of the prophets. I don't remember the name. Maybe Shmuel. I don't remember. He came to talk to the king and actually try to educate him that he's doing wrong. So he told him a tale, and the tale was supposed to be like a metaphor to what he's doing, right? So the tale was there's a guy that has a lot of sheep, but he sees his neighbor, and his neighbor has only one sheep, but it's a good-looking sheep. He takes that sheep and leaves his neighbor with no sheep. So the king tells the prophet, "Oh, that's a horrible person. Who is this person? Tell me, and I'll find him and I'll punish him." So he tells him, "It's you," because this whole thing was a tale. So you're the one who's taken the last sheep, the only sheep of that person. When you have a lot of sheep, because you have many wives, or you can have many wives, or whatever, you're the king. Basically, that's one of the famous
tales.
Yes, but also sins of David, that he coveted.
Yes. I remember this story now.
Anyways, yeah. So basically, why we mentioned this, I don't remember.
I mean, we talked about Israel and then we went back to all the way to Solomon.
If Solomon did something
because
I don't know, but Solomon, he was a very cosmopolitan king.
Yeah,
he not just met Queen of Sheba in the Red Sea in Eilat or near Eilat somewhere. He also refurbished the temple. The temple that was built by David was a very small, shabby temple. But then the kingdom was becoming rich, maybe like today a bit. They found oil, gas, I don't know what they found. They became rich, they could afford to refurbish the temple. So he bought, and it's mentioned in the Bible, he bought cedar trees from Lebanon to make the temple, plated in cedar trees, which were expensive. So he ordered them from the king of, well, wasn't called the king of Lebanon, but the king of the
tribe or
kingdom that was there in Lebanon. But the name was mentioned in the Bible, the trees of Lebanon. This is how they are known, trees of Lebanon. Cedars of Lebanon. So basically, that king sent him the cedars as a gift, or they exchanged gifts. So basically, he was very he integrated the kingdom of Israel to the region, similar to maybe what Bibi Netanyahu does today. I don't know. Some of the people in Israel like to think that Bibi is a little bit like Solomon. But yeah,
It's fascinating to me. I find all history interesting. It's a shame that we pollute it so often, and we make narratives.
No,
to
it's
support our
definitely
claims.
interesting. I mean, even horrible history is interesting, but it's
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Listen, this whole conversation got started with whether a two-state solution would work or not. You're against it, well, or maybe not against it, but your fear.
It's about timing.
Sure.
I have to say, I'm not. I explain where I come from.
Sure.
Like you, I thought, I'm talking about now the early 90s. Why not make, first of all, you're not pro two states. You said you were pro one.
I don't care. Yeah.
You don't care.
Yeah.
You're agnostic about this as well.
But listen, I just look at
Whatever
it.
works.
Whatever works.
Fine. But I explain where I come from. I come from beginning of the 90s. We have the second intifada. The first intifada. 87, first intifada. Now, before then, I can tell you, I was living in Tel Aviv. I'm an only child. I was living in the northern areas of Tel Aviv, which considered like good parts of the city, right? Where do we encounter Arabs? So first of all, my parents had Arab friends in a village. Now it's a city. Then it was a village, or a town called Tira, on the outskirts of Tel Aviv, and we would go and visit them. Let's say every 2 months or so. They would invite us. We would have sinia, and they would make pita with zatar, fresh zatar that they would, pick from the fields. And so we had Arab friends, but that family, how did we get to know them, right? So basically, the husband, the man of that family, was a contractor. And my mother, she ran a business, and they needed someone to do construction or refurbishment or whatever. She knew him through that and
Work.
But the families became friendly, not just because of and it lasted for years. And Khawla, his wife, would make kubes.
It was a good time.
We had a good time, yes. Now, I'm not saying that every family in Israel had
Good or bad experience.
another Arab family that they were friends with. I don't know if it was common or not, but for us it was regular. It was like one of another set of friendships that my family had, right, with Jewish families. The other Arabs that we encountered were working in construction. If you have a house built down the road, it usually was built by Arab workers, and they weren't from around. They weren't from. I imagine. I know for sure about a few because we were talking to them. They were from, and we saw that they were coming very early in the morning. They were coming from Gaza because it's 2 hours drive, maybe hour and a half, depends on the traffic. So they were coming from Gaza. They were coming to work in Tel Aviv. They were making good money for Gaza, and Gaza wasn't as bad shape
Back then.
as it today. It was, and Israelis would go to Gaza on the weekends. They would buy furniture. They would buy stuff in Gaza. They would eat in Gaza. It was, now we knew it's not part of the country. It wasn't integrated legally. It wasn't part of the country, but there was no border. There was no checkpoint. Everything was fine, kind of. Okay. And then started the first intifada, meaning it started with, on the news, you hear there are riots. They're throwing stones. Okay, then they're throwing Molotov cocktails. But that's there, that's far away. That's in Gaza, maybe it's in Ramallah. It's far away, it's not in... But then started that those workers that come to work, not all of them, right? 99% of them were just interested in coming to work.
They need money. You're not going to bite the hand that feeds you at the end of the day.
No, I mean, but they weren't interested in getting into trouble, right? But it doesn't matter that 99% are not interested in getting into trouble. 1% are.
Birds of the feathers
use the
flock
fact
together.
that they're there. No, but I mean, they use the fact that they can access Israel, the heart of Israel, Tel Aviv, for stabbing attacks. They would just grab a knife, they had knives. You don't need a knife. You can take whatever. You can. Finding a knife is not a problem. You know what I'm saying? You don't need an AK-47.